now entering the Bass Galaxy.
This is Teal's Bass Galaxy. I'm your host. This podcast is about raw, real conversations with real awesome people about bass fishing, bass boats, and heck, there are no limits in the galaxy. Attention all Bastronauts. This podcast is supported by the Bass Galaxy's title sponsor, Waypoint Angler Supply, the Midwest's new landing pad for hardcore anglers just like you and me. If you're looking for the sneaky goods you can't find anywhere else, look no further. Waypoint Angler Supply has the largest offering of JDM tackle in the Midwest, and they are right here in Minnesota on Lake Minnetonka. This is truly a place every bass fisherman in Minnesota needs to visit because we finally have a tackle shop in the state that's as dreamy as the ones you find down south. And the staff at Waypoint Angler Supply understands the various needs of us anglers, which is why you'll find the selection there so enticing. Ross and the folks at Waypoint Angler Supply are passionate about carrying the right stuff, providing an authentic customer experience, and they listen to the anglers. And it doesn't end at JDM baits. They stock all the top U.S. brands, as well as local Minnesota brands like Waseca Fishing and Customs, Arsenal Fishing, Bait Lab Custom Swim Baits, All Terrain Tackle, Bagley Northland, Outcast Tackle, and more. So stop into their store on Lake Minnetonka or visit their website, waypointanglersupply.com. That's waypointanglersupply.com. Use the code GALAXY20 to save 20% on your next tackle binge. Today's guests, we've got the Waseca Mafia here. We've got the old bull, Tim Schroeder, who holds himself a century belt on the Classic Bass Champions Tour. He's pretty well known in the state of Minnesota and, you know, kind of a legend that flies under the radar, and really excited to have him on. And then we got the young calf, Mr. Krampitz, Mr. Walker Krampitz. This kid is 19 years old, and he just won himself a Champions Tour event on the Alexandria Chain this past year. And his high school fishing coach and mentor happens to be none other than Sergeant Timmy Schroeder. Big Tim, Walker Krampitz, let's go. Hello, Bastronauts. This is a message of gratitude for myself, all your support that you've shown the Bass Galaxy and Teal's Bass Galaxy podcast, and just very grateful to all the guests and people who've tuned in so far. We want to keep this show rolling for all of you who keep tuning in. So it'd be great if you'd be willing to subscribe to our YouTube channel and support, you know, all the great sponsors that keep the Bass Galaxy rolling and ever expanding. And always open to feedback, but your support is greatly appreciated. So hit that subscribe button, check out our sponsors, and we look forward to bringing you even more intergalactic content. Thank you.
We were talking about baits. That
Baits?
I bought them all.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that Tim is like,
Omni on the go.
like he, you could call him Tackle Tim.
That's a good name for him.
Tim the Tackle Man Taylor, like from Home Improvement, but with tackle.
There's a little
But
bit
more
of
of a badass.
a little bit of tackle around. Noah's won 4 boats using my tackle, so must work.
Yeah, that's cool. And you and Noah go way back, but you yourself, you go way back. And now we got the young calf here who just won himself a Champions Tour event. And to be honest, I just appreciate you boys coming out. So cheers, Walker. Maybe you go open your Red Bull, or you already poured it in there. You're good. Cheers. Thanks for making the trip. Really appreciate you boys coming out. And I think it's there's been this elusive Waseca Mafia rumor, and I mean it's definitely seen this year in full force. I think Waseca really did nice on the trails this year.
It was pretty good. I think between even if you take Noah, Walker, and I, and then there's a couple other guys. You got Travis Kimbrough that was fishing the MNBN, did really good, and then he won the big bass deal on Tatanka a couple weekends ago. So yeah, I mean, between the group from Waseca, we did pretty good. I'm thinking well over 120 grand came back towards Waseca, or probably north of there. So
right, and if you hear Noah talk and you talk, like the competition down in that area, it seems like you guys just kind of all fuel off each other a little bit. And, there's a lot of good sticks down there. So.
If you show up to a Thursday nighter, everyone's there. Everyone that fishes in, within 50 miles, they're all there.
Right.
And they're all good. Like, it takes 21 pounds every tournament, even a Thursday nighter.
Sure.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
And the lakes, I mean, there's not a lot of lakes down by you guys. They're a little bit, grimy, but
yeah, I mean, they're not going to be like, your Minnetonka or anything like that. They're all shallow. They're all going to be one within 14 foot or shallower.
Right.
No weed lines, stuff like that.
A little bit dirtier.
Yeah. Doing a lot more flipping, stuff like that.
Right. Right. Well, Tim, you kind of, we'll get back to that, but I do want to kind of get into how you got started in this whole deal, and just a little bit of background, because you come from a little bit of the North Country as well.
Yep. So I grew up in Long Prairie, so north of here even. I've been fishing tournaments since I was young. My first tournament I was probably 14 or 15 years old. It was on Lake Waseca. It was a panfish tournament, crappie and sunfish. It was a tournament called Get Hooked on Fishing and Not Drugs. It was held out at I think Holiday Resort, if my memory's right. And I went out with a guy. He took me out, and we literally sat and ice fished right over the side of the boat, and we waylaid on them. And I think I had like 47 pounds of sunfish and crappies I weighed in.
Sure.
And for a couple hours, we had a limit of crappies, a limit of sunfish, and that's when you could keep a gazillion sunfish back in the day. And
Sure.
so yeah, I've been tournament fishing for a long time.
What year, do you remember what year that was?
It would probably been early 90s.
Sure.
Maybe probably around 90, 91 probably.
Okay. Yep.
And then starting in the mid 90s, we started when I was about 16, so like 92-ish, we'd started fishing some of the little Tuesday night, Wednesday night tournaments around Long Prairie and Alec, and that's where it all started.
Sure. And now, I mean, you've got a century belt on Lake Minnetonka. You were the weight leader. What I think's cool about it is it was on Lake Minnetonka, which, I mean, I think that'd be potentially pretty tough to do nowadays. I don't know, but I think that was pretty unreal back then too. So
yeah, I look back at all the years of fishing. I've been blessed to have fished with some of the best guys in the state. I mean, you look back to the late 90s, early 2000s when they had the pro-ams going on. I always was an amateur and fished in the back of the boat behind those guys, and you better figure it out if you're going to catch any fish, when you're fishing with some of those sticks. And that's where I learned a lot of it, that back in the pro-am days, and the Gander Mountain pro-ams, the Minnesota pro-am.
Sure.
And then there were some other tournaments, but I've been very fortunate to fish with the best guys in the state, and let alone the country.
Yeah, because I know I've fished against you when you fished with Shane, I know, and I know Paul Roush pretty good, and just a lot of good sticks, and it seems like you boys always seem to catch them. Yeah,
Paul Roush and I and my buddy Jeremy Ossendorf, we grew up all in Long Prairie, and it would be literally like you'd bike down to Paul's house. He lived on Lake Charlotte in Long Prairie. He'd bike down to his house back then, and we'd take his little 16-foot Lund out, and or little pontoon with an 18-horse on. We'd troll around the lake, and we'd have little contests just amongst the three of us, four of us. But yeah, we've fished. We've all been friends for since we were little kids, played hockey and stuff together, and so and we still are. We go to Mexico almost yearly and go on different hunting and fishing trips. So it's been a great time and throughout the years.
Well, I just want you to know that you're like a jigworm like wizard to me, and I've learned a lot just even from that Champions Tour event watching you on Lake Minnetonka. And I think, when did you first kind of get turned on to that? Because you've made, quite a bit of hay on that. And I'm sure I'm not calling you a one-dimensional angler, because I know you can flip with the best of them and do multiple facets, all facets of the game. But, I mean, there's a big win on a jigworm, and I know that's not the only time you've done that for a W.
No, I mean, you think back when this whole jigworm started back in the day. I mean, there was a little mushroom had jigs and that were started, but I mean, back in the day, it would be almost a spin-off of the jigworm of being like, I mean, we were throwing 4-inch ribbon worms, like 4-inch. So I mean, a cross between a power worm and a Ned now almost, and we were throwing 4-inchers around, and you'd get bit. And I mean, but I grew up north when you're fishing Lahamadou and whitefish and Ida and Minnewaska, and I mean, those are weedline lakes. That's where you can see 15, 20 foot down, and that's just where I've grew up, and I like weedline fishing. But yeah, and when it comes down to that dirty water, Walker and Noah, they keep kicking my butt in it. But there's some things that I can do flipping that those boys can't yet. I got a little thing, and I've taught Noah a couple tricks on it as well, but over the years. But
he's mentioned Noah dubbed it the Schroeder shake.
Yeah,
we'll maybe leave it at that.
No,
however you want to talk about that, but
that was
worth noting.
Yeah, we call it the Schroeder shake. That was the day Noah and I mean, we've fished years together and against each other, and we've had a lot of good times. But we also do, we'll go out and just test products, test rods, test line with the rods, test the baits to see how the hookup ratio is, test the hooks, what they do to the fish's mouth. So you do a lot of work. But one night we went out just fun fishing. We were both in a boat together, and I don't remember if it was mine or his, but we went to the lake, and I just put the beat down on him, and finally he figured out that he was going to start doing that. So it was a pretty good night.
That's cool. It's amazing how that goes sometimes, where you're fishing with a guy, and that's what I think is cool about fishing is, I mean, a jig, especially a jigworm, whatever it is, you can be throwing the same lure as somebody else and absolutely waxing if you can figure out that trigger or that way to make that fish bite that day, And some days you're the hammer, some days you're the nail. But I mean, I don't know if I should thank you or what, because you've partially created an absolute monster. And we were talking about this on the last podcast, and I was talking to him on the phone today, and Lord Guinness, I think he's a world record holder. Most tournaments won with the most amount of kids.
Yep. And I mean, the joke was, even this spring, was like, all right, before I sign up to fish the Champions Tour, I need to know if Jenna's pregnant or not, because because when he had the gun to his head, I would call it, it was like the pressure is like, well, he knew he was going to win, but yeah, so that was the inside joke. But as soon as they came out this year with saying Lahamadou and whitefish, I knew that I was coming back, and especially after being off last year, I knew I was coming back to fish those two lakes and this year and go from there.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed about you, even just observing and fishing with you, is you really care about the people who are close to you, and you're a very good friend, and you're very supportive as a mentor, as a friend. And Walker, I was gonna kind of ask you a little bit, because it seemed like Lahamadou, there's a lot of emotions at that tournament. And I know, like, Tim was there when Noah, I think, had some of his first kind of really big moments. And I think about that with Noah, and then I look at what happened with you on Lahamadou, and I'm not taking any credit away from what you've done. I just think you're it's cool that you're there. I know you're fighting against him that tournament though. It was a dogfight. So, but I guess you were his high school coach. That's what's cool to me about all of this. And then you guys take first and second at Lahamadou. I guess, did you guys like share a lot of stuff before that event, Walker?
No,
No.
I don't think a single thing. Did we really? I mean,
he fished out there a couple of years ago. I might have pointed him in the right direction on a spot. The one spot's maybe within question right now, but we talked about it this year, and we'll probably get into that at the whole student angler type thing here coming up at some point tonight. But Walker, we had an understanding that he wasn't going to go fish some of the stuff that we'd talked to him about, and he was absolutely phenomenal about that all year. And I tried to push him off a spot at Lahamadou, and he wasn't moving. So
it was a community hole type deal there.
It was a community hole.
Did he pass his training at that point where he defended that spot correctly? Where you're like, all right, you've passed.
Yeah, he's come a long ways. I'm super proud of him. I mean, from when he was 13 or 14 when I first took him fishing to throughout the years as he's growing up, and he's come a long ways from wanting to run all over Mille Lacs and hit every square inch of Mille Lacs to sitting on a 100-yard stretch to Minnetonka. I think he did really good out there the one time, and the year before he ran all over the place. And then I told him the next time we was back out there, I'm like, all right, you need to sit here or not run around. And they ended up doing really well. I don't remember if he won it or not, but they did really well.
I think we ended like 7th, but that was like a big turning point for me too, though. Just learning patience, and that tournament really showed that a lot.
I think that was like I said, a big learning. One of the things I got him to learn was to slow down and not off to the races. And I helped with the high school student angler stuff for I don't know, quite a while. But before I had Walker, I had 2 high school kids from Prior Lake that I helped with for 4 or 5 years, and they made it to nationals a couple times, the state or nationals twice. So I don't know,
like the championship.
Yeah, like the championship.
Deal.
But so they made it. They did really good, and I know that when 3 of the tournaments we fished out on Minnetonka with the high school kids, even we had big bass twice, 2 5th-place finishes, and we won a tournament out there. So I mean, I've done pretty good on Minnetonka over the years. I mean, but that comes down to learning and patience and having just patience, I guess.
I guess when was the first time you got to like fish with Timmy? And I guess, how did you get to know this guy? He didn't arrest you the first time you met him, right?
No, it was actually his wife that was the one that set me up with him.
I got you.
She cuts my hair, so that's kind of how that went. And she was like, here's Tim's number if you ever want to go fishing with him or anything like that. I can't remember if we went out to, the lake one time, or we just hopped right into the tournament, I think.
I'm guessing. I think we just went right to that one tournament, and after that, I was hooked. We caught him pretty good, and I think we ended up second that day, but it was pouring, like where you couldn't see, and when they were weighing, it was like a little Saturday hop-in deal, and I definitely questioned on how the weigh-in went, but we ended up second, and he stuck it out through the rain. He got his phone all wet and had to get a new phone after that, but it started after that, and then I think then after he went and got his own boat. Then first boat was a little pro craft, and
17-footer. Tried to kill me about 5 different times.
And then he upgraded.
How'd that happen?
Well, we had a nationals event, or not like a nationals, like a national qualifier down like in Wabasha or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And it was, raining. It was lightning. It was like the one place you don't want to be is on the river, during that whole deal. And we were back in some bay, you know how the river is, like sometimes you overheat your motor just getting in places and stuff like that.
Yep.
So we were running out of this bay and ended up overheating our motor in the middle of the main channel. Well, the current was ripping at like 6 miles an hour. So it was like at high, like the access was flooded and everything. motor kills in the main channel, and we're going crossways at the river channel buoys in a little 17-footer boat. So with 3 guys,
Yeah.
and it's scary. And the boat starts rolling over on the side of this buoy as we hit it, because we didn't have a trolling motor either, because the batteries are dead.
Oh, shit.
So we were like just in a really bad predicament.
Bad shape, yeah. So what'd you do?
Pushed off the buoy, and then somehow we got a tow in.
Okay.
And then we got to the bridge where, the current's running really fast then.
Yep.
And he's pulling us, and he runs out of fuel. So then we got to get another guy, 2 guys over there and pull both of us in. And then
Holy smokes.
we missed qualifying by like 1 spot too, by like 5 ounces. It was just
I
terrible.
was not involved on that because
He wasn't there on
I
that
have
one.
not fished the river since May of 2005, and I will not fish the river ever again. So
Gotcha. 10-4.
That
Dude,
was-
that's wild.
Yeah,
And
it
after
was-
that, you're like, I need a good coach. Or
No, that was my dad. He's been
Oh,
both.
yep.
I mean, it was between
good
him
guy.
and Tim that were like, they were kind of bouncing back and forth depending on which tournament they'd go to or whatever. But mostly it was my dad, I would say, for the majority of the tournaments, boat captaining.
yeah,
And he's a walleye guy, so
Sure, sure.
He was kind of new to the whole bass fishing industry, but I think he likes it now. You should try and roll him over into the bass fishing series.
I had fun with him. He was a great marshal for me that day. So
Yeah.
yeah. And he didn't tell me shit about what you were doing. I was plugging him all day. Like,
He's very good at learning. Like,
I didn't even know
and
you were on the
watching.
same area.
Yeah, I know. I
as
was
me.
right
We
behind
started
you.
on the same area and
on where
on
Whitefish.
Whitefish.
Oh.
And I had like dots where his boat was sitting and didn't know it was him. Talking to his dad's like, he's like, yeah, I'm not sure where Walker's at, but he must not have left his starting hole yet. And I was like,
And I ran right past Teal too.
I was gonna say, you guys must have been
his
fishing
dad,
the
his
brown
dad
ones.
kept it.
No.
His dad kept it.
no
hush.
no brown
He's a good
ones
dad.
involved that tournament.
Not really, no.
It was largemouth up there.
For that. And then you had second in the Pro-Am the next day on the Whitefish chain.
Yep.
I should
I
have been up there.
that was an interesting couple days up at Whitefish, and that was a bad week for me all the way around. But yeah, I was able to salvage it, and I'd been looking forward to Whitefish for as soon as they said Whitefish, and I mean, as soon as they said it, I made a phone call to Dean Capra, and knowing that he's got his cabin up there, and I'm like, hey, I got Walker Krampitz and I are sort of traveling together. I'm like, hey, can we crash at your pad for the Champions Tour? And he's like, yeah, not a problem. Thanks for asking. And then he says, you can come up this day. I think he was doing some other stuff, and I'm like, okay. So one night we went up a little early. We crashed in a buddy's fish house out in the middle of the woods. Walker and I did, and then we went to the Capper compound, and we had a real nice time there, hanging out with Dean and Heidi, and Jim Severson was there for the week. So I mean,
Jimmy.
Maddie Peters showed up eventually, and so I mean, we had a real nice time. We had a hell of a fire one night, tree cutting contest.
Tree trimming
Was that your first time with that crew?
with Dean. Yeah,
Yeah,
That was
okay.
like the first time I really
Jimmy?
talked to Dean. Yeah, I've never met Jim
Jimmy's a
before,
trip,
Dylan.
dude.
He's a cool dude. Yeah,
And then you throw Peters in it. It's like, holy shit.
yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah. Probably ate good.
We had a good week.
Yeah.
Oh, I made dinner one night for all of us. I did.
We had Buff over, Peters. Who else? Willie.
Willie.
Yeah, we had them over one night, but one night I made us dinner. I made ribeyes, shrimp scampi, potatoes, and I don't know, a bunch of other stuff, and
Lots of garlic.
yeah, lots of garlic. But everyone was just like, "This is like phenomenal," and I was cooking on this little grill to get it all handled. So, but yeah, we ate pretty good all year. Didn't matter where we were. Big Stone, we really ate well.
That was a plump full week. Like, he had an agenda, like literally a menu for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Dang.
Oh, it was.
Where are we staying next year, boys?
We
That-
did. What did we all do? We did ribeyes one night. We did pulled pork from Kelm's Barbecue. We did smoked brisket and mac and cheese. We did
A bunch of good stuff.
smoked chicken, garlic Alfredo. Yeah,
Yeah.
we ate good in the hood at Big Stone.
And it was like the Airbnb we had was like perfect too for that whole
Yeah.
week was awesome. Like we didn't have really besides the fishing, the fishing wasn't very good, but we had a really good week besides the fishing. I mean, our Airbnb, if we go back to Big Stone, that place was awesome.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
gal was
it's
making
definitely-
us muffins and bringing them over. And
What?
Yeah, we
Muffins?
had muffins.
Love muffins, man.
She made cupcakes for us. I mean, we
Whoa.
were like right on that little island, that finger that runs out
Oh,
there.
yeah, that deal.
Yeah, and you could park like 4 or 5 boats there. I mean, it was perfect.
yeah, it was.
We need to get back to that jigworm. We got away from that. Nice job.
It's no big deal. It's a jigworm.
But weed lines, right? And you're very good with the jigworm. There's a lot of things you can throw with a spinning pole. You can throw a drop shot. You can throw a shaky head. You can throw a Nico rig. You can throw a Ned rig. You can throw a jigworm, which to me, those two are kind of the same thing.
I hate throwing a Ned.
Me too.
That's what cost me at Lahamadou because I was too proud to throw a Ned. Walker was throwing it, but I was
Walker
too,
likes himself a Ned.
I was too proud.
That's something new to me too, though. Not like just like if in the last year, it was kind of something that I really started just fishing with too. So
Taking out. Yeah.
yeah, and that was thanks to a buddy back at college that kind of showed me, and he like dies by the Ned year round, no matter what. Like
Man.
anywhere you go, throw Ned.
Gotcha. Do you mess with weights a lot on your Ned?
No,
Just kind of stick with one weight? 1/8 ounce Ned?
3/16.
3/16. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about perfect anywhere you go. You throw it 11 foot or 25 foot, don't matter.
Right. You can kind of, I would agree with that weight being very,
Versatile,
universal.
yeah.
Yeah, versatile. Huh.
And it kind of depends on the worm too. It depends on what you're throwing for like a density bait or something like that.
I feel like you mess with weight on a jigworm more. A little bit, right?
No,
One size.
one size, different hook. Depends on which bait I'm throwing. But
Yeah.
outcast money jig,
Sure.
1/8 ounce chartreuse, every day, all day,
Everywhere you go.
everywhere I go. 1/8 ounce.
He's got like 6 jigworm rods. It's ridiculous. He pulls them out. Jigworm.
All with the
Yeah.
chartreuse head.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, I might throw a 3/32 rigged a little different, but
I like a 3/32.
for the most part, it's money jig, and these guys are always over. Noah's over usually buying them at my house, and Walker's over getting them. But yeah, I'm a money jig guy all the way.
It's a great jig head. I like the mighty jig in 3/32 eighth or 3/16. I mean, it seems like some days they want one of them, but an eighth, if you're just going, it's a really happy medium, and I think you can change the rate of fall with the worm you use too. But are you guys? I know what you're throwing on Tonka, so I mean, I kind of know a little bit about. But you got a curly tail jigworm, you got a straight tail jigworm, you got a big jigworm, you got a little jigworm, and you've got different types of worms and stuff, I guess. But when you approach a weed line, I've seen how slow you fish that bastard, and I guess how do you find and cover water? Do you do that with a jigworm as well, or
Yep.
do you? Okay,
I'll cover water with it, but then once I've sort of figured it out a little bit, I call it stupid sticking,
yeah,
and it's literally you could throw it out and don't touch it and let it sit there until it swims off. It is so easy and so dumb. It is stupid. It's called stupid sticking, and there's a couple different ways I fish it, but yeah. It is painful. Like you could literally set your rod down, have a sandwich, have a pop, wait for your line to swim off. Painfully slow.
I don't talk about it very much, but there's something to that for sure, and you've proven that, obviously. I mean, I'll never forget that Champions Tour video of you just rigging up your other rod and your other rod set down, and then you reel that up and you got your other worm rigged, and you land that fish, you weigh it, you throw it back, you throw your rigged worm off, then you're just sitting in the driver's seat all day, just catching them, Timmy.
Yeah, well, that was a good day. I can't complain.
And I guess to me, no one else was catching them like that. So how long is too long and how short is too short to be soaking? Like, we talking pot of coffee or we talking like...
It depends on if you're doing, if you do a 5-fish derby, I'll fish a spot. If I think there's one there to catch, I mean, I'll fish it until I think I got them. And, if I think there's a 5th one to be there, or think that it's a chance to win, especially on a 5-fish derby, I'll definitely stay a lot longer, go back and check it, and if I think the right ones are there. I mean, in the Champions Tour, you best be catching, otherwise you're falling behind. And I know Maddie's got it figured out that you best have about 8 fish an hour. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind or something like that. It was some number that he had figured out, like 32 bass for the day or 4 bass an hour or something that'll get you paid. But fishing against those boys, I mean, I fished this year. Last year I took off. I mean, from the Champions Tour, one, I think they were on the river, and so I wasn't going there. And we could talk about that little story later too. But so I won't go there. But I had a heart attack in December of 21.
Oh, damn.
And I had a bunch of complications afterwards, so it was even tough to fish last year. So in 22, so I didn't fish a whole lot last year. So it was time to get back on the horse and get after it this year. But going back to, Champions Tour, you best be catching. Otherwise, you're falling behind. And it comes down to you got to make the right decisions. And, I think over the years, that's stuff that Walker's picked up from me. It was like decision making and time management. And he's, from when he started to now, it's just absolutely amazing. And he's picked up the way he's picked up on stuff, and you could see him just change and grow even throughout this year. And just really proud of the way he's fished all summer.
Heck yeah. And I guess, Walker, this is maybe, and we've each learned, as we've come up, and I'll never forget, like, a moment with Doug Petrak in a boat when I learned how to fish a jig, and I pulled up to this deep point, and I thought I was fishing this jig, and, I was, pulling this jig along kind of like and we weren't catching nothing, and I was like, let's go try a new spot. He's like, try a new spot? Why would you want to try a new spot? I was like, I don't know, I'm not catching them here. He's like, maybe try it. And then he got up by me, and I threw my jig out on the weed line, and he's like, okay, hold that rod with your wrist. And I think about it like you can't write a sentence with your arm, right? But you can with your wrist. And that's how that was my light bulb jig moment. And all of a sudden, I'm working this jig with my wrist, and I'm keeping it tight to the bottom, and I'm really starting to feel this jig all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, I get a bite, and I crack him. And I ended up winning the tournament that night off that spot because I never left. And, same jig I was throwing, but all of a sudden just beat that one little tweak, and it turned what I thought was 0 fish there to, there was a whole school there, and I just wasn't making them bite. Was there any, like, cool moments like that, that Tim showed you in the boat that I guess really... World champion barbecue born in the pits of Memphis, Tennessee, family owned and located just north here in Minnesota. Just north of Memphis, barbecue, ladies and gentlemen. One look at their trophy room and one taste of their barbecue is all it takes to know it's the very best. But the J&O story runs much deeper than that, and bringing people together, whether it's friends, family, or fishing buddies, with some mouth-watering smoked barbecue, that's what they're all about, which is about as American as it gets. If you smoke meat, if you like to grill meat, if you like to cook meat, you need to try the J&O Memphis Dry Rub Seasoning, which will enhance your barbecue game instantaneously. Also, voted world's best sauce in 2022. You can bring this right to your kitchen table. They've got 3 flavors, and each one is better than anything you'll find in the supermarket. Let's take things up a notch this summer. You can order their dry rub and world-famous barbecue sauce right on their website. Visit jnomemphis.com. jnomemphis.com. That's jnomemphis.com. Or visit their Facebook page for food truck locations and schedule. Barbecue.
I'm Johnny B with Just North of Memphis Barbecue, and I approve this message.
Hey guys, Gaff here with Waypoint Angler Supply. I'm hanging out here at our JDM wall. We've got a large variety of product. Hold on. Hey guys, Gaff here with Waypoint Angler Supply. I'm just out here hanging out at our JDM wall with my buddy Teal, and we're going over some JDM product. We've got ourselves some Fish Arrow, some Duo Realis, Depths, and G-Crack, all for you. But it's not just the tackle that we've got. We've got ourselves some reels, some rods, all from Japan, some BFS stuff, all the good stuff that you're looking for from Japan that you can't find anywhere else. So swing on into Waypoint Angler Supply and get yourself stocked up.
We'll see you here at Waypoint Angler Supply.
.com? .com. We're cool, or anything you've learned in the boat like that?
I mean, a lot of it I've learned from it, just like the techniques and, you know, kind of how to fish them, where to fish them, and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of like a good, I don't know, the one that really like gets me going was when you caught that 6 in the channel. Remember during that one?
Yep.
That one kind of like, you know, it's like there could be fish there, you know, and you know it's like the last probably last 20 minutes or something like that. Flips jig in there, cracks one. He's like, oh, it's a big one. Gets that. No, it was like I don't even know how big it was.
It was like 6 something.
Yeah, 6 1/4. I mean, just like
You wouldn't have pitched there type of situation, or you wouldn't have made that decision.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, just, you know, it's just a channel. You just keep going through.
Right.
He's like, well, we might as well fish it. We're here. Fishes it. You know, it's like just stuff like that you pick up on. Like a lot of the techniques you've showed me, but we all fish different between, you know, me, you, and Noah. We all fish our own different ways now. I would say, like, I tried to fish your style more, and it didn't suit me. You know, some of it did, some of it didn't, you know.
That's where he's been fortunate. I mean, he's seen how Noah fishes, you know, and he's seen how I fish, and so he's taken both of them and then he created his own you know,
style
so like
that.
when I'm training someone at work, you know, like I'll tell you how this is, but when you know, that person gets out on their own, it's like you come up with your own style. This is how you're going to do it. You know, this is what we'd like to see, or this is what's worked, but they come up with their own style, and Walker's done that. He's taken some from me, some from it, but he's developed his own style.
A lot of the northern fishing, like the Clearwater stuff, is where you introduced me, and that was like, we don't ever fish stuff like that down at home unless you're taking like a trip up north or something like that. But then like the whole high school deal introduced me to all the lakes, you know, and then I started. You know, he showed me stuff on how to fish up there. You know, you go up there from down where we're at, and you're like, where do you go? You know, it's clean water. It's scary. I hate clean water. You know, I kind of grew to like it more now, but
Sure.
It's something that still is like a little scary to a point.
Sure.
But yeah,
Sure.
like something like stuff like that. You know, northern fishing, you really showed me a lot up there, in which it's helped me grow a whole lot.
Well, and I think high school fishing has really gone kaboom. I mean, you've seen it. It's amazing. I guess, what was the transition like from like the high school stuff to fishing the Champions Tour? Because, I mean,
It's a big difference. Yeah, there's a huge difference.
Sure.
This year, I had no idea if I was going to like the Champions Tour, like the layout. I'm still not really used to it. I'm not still, you know, if you're trying to catch numbers instead of, you know, your 7 fish.
Oh,
you know?
it feels a lot different.
Oh, 100%, especially after Lahamadu. I'm like, I don't know. This is way out of my comfort zone, you know. I mean, it's fun, you know. It's something that's way different than like your 5-fish derbies. You fish way more different and way different baits and stuff like that.
Right.
That transition was wild. I mean, especially with like the measurement, you know, and the high school deal like that.
Yeah.
It's good and bad, you know. It doesn't really show you like the whole tournament scene, but it gives you like a tease of it almost in a way.
Sure.
I would say.
Sure.
But, yeah. I mean, that's there's always going to be a big transition between, lower level to higher level stuff. Like even college was like still like, little like high school, but then, I only fished, 3 tournaments in college. So, I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
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 Then jumped right up to Champions Tour. So,
Well, first year, rookie season, you got yourself a Gilmore check, bud. I've been working quite a while for one of those. So just congrats, man. And whatever you're doing, I guess it's working. And I don't know how much these guys helped you, but I think you earned it. And at the end of the day, I don't think he gave that one to you.
Oh, he definitely earned it. I mean, like I said, if you watch that video, I mean, it's a good video.
Yeah.
But there was probably a half hour. We call it the lunch spot, and we have a video that where the three of us, Noah and Walker and I, were sitting there, and Noah and I were coming down, heading into each other, and ran into each other, and we stopped to have a sandwich and BS. And Walker saw us, so then he came over and was BSing with us, and the next thing you know, we're hanging out, and our little stop ended up being there for like a half hour, 45 minutes of hanging out, and next thing you know, you got Walker standing on his motor making casts, and Noah's casting, and we're casting. I think we caught like 20 of them off the spot. They're like, we should really quit.
Just having lunch.
yeah, we're all like, we should quit one more cast. Everyone catches
Where
one.
it started the second half. Was that the day before?
No, it was a couple days before, but then we're all hitting like waypoints.
I caught like 5 there the day before and shook off like
No, you started down though.
down from the lunch
And
spot.
then I started up from there and worked my way down. And then
I got you.
And then he pulled in. He's like, "You're on the spot." And I'm like, "I know." And then
None of us caught him.
Well, and then I started.
Well,
I went
there.
He was on it though. I tried to get on it. I'm like, I'm coming around you. I'm going the other way, and he's like, the hell you are. And he's like,
I wasn't letting them roll me because they were all behind me. Like I made one cast behind me, and it was like one, I don't know, just like a little finger that ran out of cabbage or something, and there was whatever 14.
You know, he's
sitting
the
there.
Godfather, right, of the Waseca Mafia.
Oh, I know, but I wasn't letting him roll
He does
me.
what he wants.
'Cause
Big Timmy does what Big Timmy wants.
He was like 18, 19 pounds ahead of me at that point, and I was like, I got to catch up a little bit. Because my second half, I knew I wasn't going to do very good. Just on that side, I had a bad practice over there.
I had good practice over there. Not bad tournament day.
that was you talk about decisions that day that you got to make, and you live and die by some of those, because if you make one bad decision in the Champions Tour, you're behind.
For
and
sure.
That morning
I started that way.
Walker and I started on the Lamadou side, and I was going to a different spot. I was going to a whole different.
you saying that.
I was going.
He was coming by me.
You turned around.
I turned it around, and I laid that Skeeter up on its side, and I literally turned it around. Like, if you've ever seen the Skeeter commercial where they're buzzing down the lake and they have the helicopter up above,
Yeah, I remember that.
and they whip it around and go back the other way. I did that. It was great. I pulled into that spot, and I just
Peeled on him.
peeled on them. So
See, you peeled on
I
him.
think you started where I wanted to start.
I could have, yeah.
But where I started, I wanted to start there too, and I didn't catch him for 45 minutes. But I was doing it wrong. I found a lot of fish in Lamadou, but I didn't figure out how to really make them bite till 45 minutes into that tournament.
The schools
And I
in
was behind.
Lamadou.
I was behind. You guys were on them. I was 45 minutes behind.
So, like I said, you make that decision. I turned around and went back and fished those fish, because the day I found those fish, I was on the phone with actually BSing with Noah, and I caught like 7 and 7 casts. But then I was going to a different spot. I think I would have had 25 pounds for my best 5 in another spot during practice, like in 5 casts.
Go to a different lake, I think.
I was going to a different lake.
I feel like you made a good decision turning around.
I didn't like the clouds that morning,
Dude, nobody caught him over there, really.
and so I turned around, and somebody did.
You did?
Where? In the first half?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they were biting.
He was in a
first.
different spot in the.
Did you go to
He went to a different lake.
You did. You snake in the grass. I like it.
The quality was
I had
there.
no
The
idea.
quality was better.
Like, my average
Yeah.
in the morning was like 3 pounds. Like, that's really good for the chain for having, like, I think I had like 10, 11 fish in the morning. I mean, they were all 215, 3-1, 3-2. You know, I mean, like that quality is hard to
played.
beat. Yeah.
Well played.
And I was the only one there. I had
Really?
I had a whole stretch like 100 yards to
I
fish.
know exactly where he was too. I mean, I fished in there the one day I had 7,
I tried flaking you off that area too.
and then I knew they were there.
I know you did.
I just didn't like the way it was, and I'd fished through the one spot the morning we fished there on Tuesday, so that Monday I fished in there again, and I fished for 4 hours in there, and I had 8 bites, and I just didn't like the 8 bites. I mean, they were big, but I thought I could only get like 30 to 35 pounds with the 8. So then I just called an audible. I didn't like the way the clouds were, and I fished through I had 2 spots, so I didn't go there because the one spot I fished through the day before, and I didn't even get bit. So I was worried that, and then there was like boat draw. There was like half a dozen boats out that were going that way, and it was like was afraid I wasn't getting it.
Yeah, I always get freaked out about that on Champs Tour a little bit, because if you have one spot somewhere, it kind of screws up your ability. So I always like to find spots with spots close by, so I always have a spot to start on and go to. But I'm just wondering, like, are we talking Gloria or Belvita?
Oh, Gloria.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I had
Gloria.
I mean, I had 2 spots to run in there. I'm like, well, I better start. But if I had left 45 minutes before and went back or went onto the chain, I left that one school biting. Tyler Barr started there the second half and caught 13 off of it.
Gotcha.
And Banger was there too, and
a lot of fish there.
There was a lot.
I could have made room there, I just didn't, but because it was kind of like spotty, but there was a lot of fish there.
There was one specific spot you just every
Yeah.
cast, every
In
cast.
practice too. Same one.
Yeah, they kind of shifted a little bit from practice to then, but the ones in practice were big. Like I was catching like 3.5s, 4s.
Yeah.
And I mean, Banger, Bankston.
catching bigger ones in
Yeah,
practice.
he caught a 4 out of there during the Derby too. So I mean,
Sure.
there was fish there. I feel like there was between me, Bankston, and Tyler Barr, we caught like 45 fish out of that school. That would have been a winning school too if I would have started on it in the morning.
There's a couple
Guaranteed.
boats on it.
Because
don't
you
know who
caught
was
29, didn't you?
How many boats were in Belvita?
29 or 32 or something. Yeah, but
4 or 5.
but going back to decision and choices, the second half started, and Peters went out ahead, and ahead of me, and so he went to a spot, and I could see where he was at, and I was like, that was pretty close to one of my spots, and so I had 2 other spots to fish in the second half, and I knew it was going to be tough, so I'm like, I had history with another spot. It's a spot that cost me the boat in 2018, and so I'd caught a couple there in practice, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go kick these fish in the teeth one more time. It can't happen again. And I went there, and man, I could not get bit. Northern after northern, getting bit off, and it was just like, what is going on? And then I went to that spot because I knew Matt would be there, and so I was playing defense instead of offense. And because I knew,
never telling you about any of my spots.
so I'm like, well, Maddie's gonna get to that spot before that'll be Maddie's second spot to fish.
Yeah.
I'm like, I better go there because that was one of my spots. Because back in 18, I was catching them and I lost 3 in a row. I had 2 over 5 and a 3 and 3 casts that I dropped in this spot. And it was like, I touched them at the side of the boat and they just come off. I had the wrong rod. That's where this whole testing of rods and equipment came from, was from that. Cost me the boat. And then Maddie came in and was trying to catch, and we were literally playing bumper boats that day. And then when I checked it this year, Maddie was not far away and he saw me catch one. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go block Matt or fish it before Matt gets over there again. And instead, I would have went to the lunch spot because I would have got to the lunch spot before Walkie got there. And then Walkie got there, and that was where went next, and I couldn't get on it. So
They weren't big. but they were there. They were all like 1, 1,
5,
2, 1, 2, 1, 9, 7.
Yeah. So that was the second half, and then it was after the second, then we did the happy hour deal, and
Yeah.
we both Walker and I were waiting to get back into Lahamadu, and
We were racing to get to the channel.
Sure.
You must have got on pad just a little bit behind me.
Yeah.
I mean,
we were like, I left first to go there to happy hour, and I got there like 3 minutes early, so I was fishing the little break out in front of the channel, and then Walker sets down by me, and then he punched it down before me, so he was ahead of me in the channel.
I didn't make that decision to
Smart.
fish happy hour until like the last 5 minutes before I had to leave. I'm like, all right, we gotta go.
Carlos was being a cold-blooded.
Same with Darling too, though.
too.
Darling was
I had
bad.
good practice.
It was really bad.
His blade boats were bad.
But then he went to where he went, and then I went to where I went. Well, I went further away than he did. But then my fishing, big fish, old school. I just, if I would have fished a smaller bait, I think I would have got him, or I relocated him. I thought I was ahead when I pulled up the trolling motor. It was time to go. It was like 18 minutes to get back.
Sure.
I had it timed to get back to, even with the 15 minutes of grace period with the channel, and so I was giving myself like a minute or two to get back.
Sure.
And then sure enough, Walkie catches the one to go ahead. But when I pulled up, I was ahead, and then by the time I was going past him, he was weighing the one that beat me. So
Sure.
Tied you. We were tied there for a minute, and then
I don't think that one had entered yet.
Well, I'm curious because I was throwing a little bit of a Ned, and then I was just not catching them for like 45 minutes, and then I changed my worm. I figured out what worm they wanted, and they wanted it, but I was like, they seemed to want a longer drop shot leader or a Nico falling slow on them that first half. And that's I guess it took me. I was just using the wrong Nico worm and drop shot worm, but once I put the right one on, it was like, and extended my leader length, I caught more bass. I guess I'm guessing you guys were drop shot and jigworming or Ned rigging, and I know you're like the master with that stuff. I guess, were you finding a longer drop shot leader was like working for you, or do you mess with drop shot leader length?
That day I had 3 of them tied up. I always
So he's always messing with it.
I always have like a 6-inch, a foot and a half. So I mean, I always have double, triple of everything always, and always rigged up in the boat. And I just grabbed the one, and it was probably like 12, 14 inches, and
The longer one.
And it, like I said, it was just, I throw a little different worm than some. Maddie was throwing a bigger one, and I was throwing a smaller one, but
I was throwing a different worm for sure.
And you were throwing a different one.
A different color. And I was doing something that, you don't know about yet.
We'll find that out on the way home, or it's a long walk for you. But
you could just threaten him now,
I
Godfather.
we just got on the drop shot.
That's just too secretive.
We just got on. It was just drop shot. And it just happened.
You probably know about it. I bet
We can cut. Like,
you probably know.
literally, we can cut.
No, it's just soaking baits
Oh, and
in different stuff. Yeah,
I might have got a crock pot somewhere in my boat.
I figured you do.
So that I wasn't doing that for that. Did that make a difference?
I think so. Yeah.
Do we need a cut?
I don't know. We can. It don't matter to me. It's just soaking baits. Everyone does it.
Yeah. but
It's not
were
very.
you soaking baits?
No, I wasn't soaking baits.
I wasn't soaking baits. We're using the taku sauce.
The what?
The taku sauce. The taku.
Oh yeah, I bet you that's
The Japanese squid sauce, the Eco Gear sauce, or were you Accent sauce or bait fuel? You bait fuel guy?
no. He's definitely not a bait fuel guy.
I
Like the
got
bait
some
fuels?
in my boat.
Gross. That stuff's garbage.
You guys just don't know how to use it.
I got some other stuff that works pretty good. Ask Noah. He'll agree. I had to deliver some to him, so I think I'll go with the stuff that I was using.
What? Oh, yeah.
Do you guys think scent makes a difference, like all the time, or just certain, like pressure? For me, it's pressure or cold. Like it seems to make more of a difference.
Depends on. There's some circumstances like that it definitely makes a difference. Like I know one tournament, Noah and I were fishing and we were throwing the same bait, and I had him down like 7-1, and he's like, "What in the heck is going on here?" And finally, I gave him some, and then he started catching. So yeah, it definitely makes at times it definitely makes a difference.
I think it depends on pressure too. Like pressure can make a big difference on that.
I mean, if you're fishing holes on, like everybody's fishing a lot of the same
community
holes on
stuff.
Lamadou, you know, and if
or
you're
Tonka too.
right,
Tonka's a big thing too. You know, there's so much pressure rolling around. You might as well do something a little different. Try and get an extra bite or something.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, soaking baits ain't gonna hurt you in a way.
That's the way I think about
Or
it.
scent's not gonna hurt you.
I don't think they're gonna swim away from it.
No.
I've heard some people say that smallmouth don't like garlic, but I don't know if that's true. I don't necessarily think that's what.
Walker just thinks I have this thing for garlic all the time. Doesn't matter if it's on my baits or if I'm eating it. So
Oh my word.
I like garlic. I've seen it work firsthand in Florida during cold fronts, like when there's a speedworm deal going on. Like it's weird when the nice days are happening. It seems like that Zoom speedworm shines, but for whatever reason, on them cold front Florida days, that gambler burner worm with that garlic scent would outfish a speedworm like
I don't get that.
8-1.
That speedworm's something else. I don't get that bite. I've never had a good speedworm bite.
Well, where have
like
you
that.
thrown it? Because to me, I've only had a really good one in Florida.
I threw it on Harris Chain, threw it on Pickwick. I mean,
I feel like it's not the deal on Pickwick and Harris Chain. I feel like it depends on probably their mood and time of year.
yeah.
And I noticed, like, I don't know, people fish it, like, you fish it, it's, what I've learned about it is you fish at the speed based on the water temperature and the weather. So, like, when it's colder, they just drag it like a sea rig. When there's warming trends, they're, like, reeling it. And when it's, like, then they're, so it's figuring out,
weird.
like, that's what was hard for me to grasp, was, and when him and I would fish, I'd always just try and figure out the swim jig deal, and he'd do the speedworm thing. Well, when I wouldn't fish with him, that speedworm is really good down there. I was actually catching some on Big Stone on it in practice because that grass was so shitty.
Them guys down south, depends on where you're at. They will die by that speedworm. Like they'll throw it any time of the year, all the time, and they'll cash checks all year round. It's like
In Florida, that makes sense, but
some people, I've talked
Sure.
to down south. I don't know why they like that speedworm so much, but
what'd you catch that big one down in Florida on that like big monster that's on Omnia and all that stuff that you're a big star with holding?
Oh, you got a big one down there?
I got 11 down there.
Fucker, that's a big one, dude.
I didn't expect it. It was on a cage fighter though, just black and blue cage fighter.
Harris chain?
Yeah,
Sick.
yeah. It was super random. Like we pulled in and I made like one flip by like a bridge, and it was on like a seawall, and flip it, set the hook, it comes up, rolls. I'm like, oh my word, I've never seen a bass that big before in my life.
He calls me just like shaking in his voice. He's like, "Oh my God, you should see this one!" Like
It was 29 inches long. Like if it had full spawn, it would have been probably pushing 13, I would say. Like it was a big one. It wasn't that fat really for how long it was.
oh, it was big. It was pretty fish.
I've netted 2 10-pounders, and it's like you left the Milky Way and you're in another galaxy when you like see one of those things come out of the water for the first time, because it's like a different looking animal than anything we see
100%.
up here. Like you look at a 7-pounder up here versus a 7-pounder in Florida, and they're built like, it seems like completely different. Ours are just like
Yeah.
kind of
real tubby.
real tubby,
Yeah.
a little shorter. Like it's got a little head. Little head a lot of the time.
Just been eating a lot. The ones down south are just built
Them
big.
Florida ones are like,
Yeah. You catch like a 5-pounder and it's got a head of a 7. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, that's weird. That's,
yeah, like
that
you
shouldn't
can
be
fucking
happening.
eat cereal out of them.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
big old mouth. But you ever fish down in the south?
Nope. About the farthest I've went is Iowa. So
Well, you've got. I do want to mention you've got a job that is demanding time wise, and I guess is that I guess first I want to thank you for your service and let you know that like the Bass Galaxy supports police officers. I want to make that clear to everybody, especially good cops like Timmy.
Well, I appreciate that.
So thank you. And I guess, how did you get into that? And what, I mean, it's a thankless job. It's a really tough job. So I guess I don't ever feel like you guys get the respect you deserve because you deliver bad news all day.
Well, I mean, I knew since I was a little kid that I was going to do work, in some sort of form of that, as my grandpa and my uncle were on fire departments. My dad was an ambulance driver. One of my buddies that I grew up hunting and fishing with as a kid, he was going to be a sheriff. And originally I was going to go to school to be a DNR. I wanted to be a game warden back in the day. So then I went and ultimately I did a couple ride-alongs and with the game wardens and then talking with them, it's like, well, you can't fish tournaments. Well, that's out.
Right.
And then they're like, how much do you like hunting and fishing? I'm like, a lot. And they're like, well, you got to work on all the openers, and you might be able to go take like days off and go out of state for out of state hunts or something like that. And I'm like, no, not happening. We're not. So we changed that whole idea, and then I went to school to be a cop, and I was going to be a sheriff's deputy. I wanted to work. Well, we'll take a spin off of that. I'm going to work water patrol. And so I went to Central Lakes College up in Brainerd, and part of the schooling back then is you had to do an internship, and I was fortunate enough to work with the Crow Wing County Sheriff's Department during my internship, and I got to work water patrol. So for the whole summer with them, and there was a couple of the guys that I got to ride with and work water patrol with as an intern. So you basically did everything that they did, but you just didn't have a gun and a badge. But we did water patrol. So, I mean, this is sweet. You're up in Crow Wing County,
Yeah.
100 miles of lakes and
Bikinis everywhere.
oh, there's stories to that.
He's got to bring that up.
That's the first thing that came to mind. Sorry.
suppose.
So yeah, I mean,
I'm a dude.
the working the whitefish chain, just interning was phenomenal, and then
Phenomenal.
I mean, we'd be out there 2:00 in the morning, and it didn't matter. And like I said, some of those guys I worked with, and they're still cops now, and I'm still friends with them. But I learned a lot. I was like, oh, this is really good. And then the following year, then I got hired to be one of the water patrol officers in Crow Wing County for the summer. So I got to do it all over again now as a licensed officer. So it was a real nice time, put it that way. And then during that year, I got to stay. My grandparents had a camper in Sherwood Forest on Mille Lacs.
Yeah.
So I got to just stay at Mille Lacs, had the boat at Mille Lacs, right across from Miramar. Get off of work, you just take and drag the boat across. You'd be on Mille Lacs. So
About 5,000 less bikinis, but
it was
great fishing.
Great fish.
So I sort of had it all. It was a good couple of years, and then ultimately, come September, your water patrol season's over, and you're sort of out of a job because it was very temporary, full-time,
seasonal.
temporary, seasonal spot. And
Yep.
that's when back in the day you couldn't really. It was tough to get a cop job. Now you can't give it away.
Right.
So
That's crazy. How times have changed.
yeah. So since February '99, I moved to Waseca, and I've been in Waseca ever since.
Yeah. Because I remember when I was in high school, like, if you wanted to be a cop, like, you might have ended up a fucking mall security guard. Like, that would be, like, getting a job, right, as a cop. Like, that's what was available. Or you had to, like, go to, like, South Dakota or, like, somewhere that nobody wanted to be, right?
Yeah, there was usually, hundreds of applicants for, like, one job, and now
Right.
now there's, a couple hundred jobs posted, and places are just stupid short. I mean,
Right.
So it's
Well, and there's kids coming out of college too that I know that have been in there for, this is their last year of college going for law enforcement, and they don't want to do it anymore just because of what's all going on. you know.
Because you went to Alex Tech, right? Or
Yeah.
Still go?
No, I'm done now.
Done now?
I only went for 10 months. So.
What'd you go for again?
Welding.
Oh, yeah, sick.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was only 10 months. I had a little fun then, but
Yeah.
a lot of them kids, like, you know, that's a big law enforcement school, but like kids down
There
in
is, yeah.
Mankato too, I know that this is their last year and they don't really want to go back in, you know, they don't want to go into law enforcement just because of what they see nowadays.
Well, and you're a sergeant now, so you've kind of got to see that whole evolution, you know, go down, and now you're probably doing a lot of the interviews. Maybe not.
I've sat on a lot of interviews over the years. I've also done a lot of field training of new officers throughout the years, and it's definitely been a big change throughout the years.
Sure. And I guess for people who maybe don't understand, you know, I know you and I have been talking, and like the hours you work alone to me are just, I mean, that's a sacrifice in and of itself. 3 to 3? 3 to 3.
That's a short shift usually. I mean, sometimes
Dude,
it's 2 to 4. I mean,
that's-
it just sort of varies, but yeah.
Dude, that's crazy to me. And like you just do it.
Yep. And then you usually, well, pre-heart attack, I would just get off of work. I'd grab the boat and I'd be at the lake. I'd fish all day, and you'd be up for 36, 48 hours, no problem. But that was pre-heart attack. But
So you were an animal.
yeah,
How long did you go that one time when you came
It
up
was
to Brainerd? You were like 60 something hours or
Yeah,
72 hours or
it-
something. He was like, drove up there, pre-fished with me, or we fished a tournament,
was on
rained all
call.
day, stormed, and drove home. And he worked like 2 days straight. It was-
yeah. There was like a day he needed a boat captain on Gull for the high school deal, and I got off work at I cut out probably a little early, and then I met him at the landing at Hole in the day there, and met him, and like, all right, let's go out to the spot. And I'm like, he was lipping off, and I'm like, I've been up for like 2 days at this point, and I'm like, I will throw you in this lake right now.
Kill your family.
His dad was standing there like, oh shoot, sorry about that, Dave. I'm like, I didn't know Dave was standing there at the time, but then
God, you
But,
remember? You remember that tournament? That was a wet one.
we got out there. We were literally the first boat. I think I waited for them. I was probably the first truck at the landing. I was sleeping in my truck waiting for them.
Because the high school deal, you can go out to your spot early and sit on it. So,
that was a weird deal.
Yeah.
That was an arms race for like parents who
oh yeah,
what parent can get up the earliest to get their son to their fucking fishing hole? What a
It was
What
that
the
way.
hell?
But I mean, we did that a handful.
That's
of
not
tournaments.
healthy. That's not healthy.
it's a
And
good
then,
time though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We sat
Hole
out-
sitting.
Well, for sure.
Walleye
We sat
opener,
out on-
walleye opener.
Out
secret.
on the lake, and it is pouring. Like you couldn't see from me to Walker at this point, and it is pouring. And 7 o'clock hits, and I mean we sat there like from like 5:30 to 7 for like an hour and a half out in the lake, making sure we got that spot.
Storming, just boom, lightning,
Lightning.
hitting. Yeah,
I
mean,
love it. I mean, if
We're-
that's
we're-
the rules, you do that. It was lightning.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a wild storm. Like every time I'm on Gull, it storms bad. Every
I don't know
time.
what it is about that.
The-
Whitefish too.
Mhm.
Not lately, but I've
No.
been on some whitefish and some shit too.
But Gull's always like that. I don't know why. Every tournament.
Yeah.
Did it rain all? Because I fished a tournament on Gull where it literally rained all day long, 8 hours straight.
It didn't rain all day. I think it only rained for probably like the first hour and a
It was
half.
like first couple
I
hours.
couldn't believe it.
Like hour and a half, 2 hours, but then 7 o'clock comes, we're catching them, and they were nice ones. They were like 4s.
Yeah.
3 3/4, 4. So they're nice ones for Gull. And you know, this whole student angler tournament trail stuff. We'll get into that too, maybe. But so we're sitting out there. We'd sat there for an hour and a half waiting for this spot, and they're catching them, and they're weighing, you know, the weighing the fish or measuring or whatever. And this guy comes in with his kids comes out and sits dead nuts right where the kids are casting. And I'm like,
Smash. I mean,
Like,
we're smashing right before that.
he watched us cast right to that spot, and he comes
Put his
in-
boat there.
put his boat there. And I'm like, dude,
Just a tinner. I mean, like a 16-footer. You know, 2 kids, a dad. You know,
but they're in the high school deal.
Yeah.
They'd sat on shore and waited till it quit raining, and then come out
And cut you out.
They couldn't. Walker and Brady couldn't even make a cast. It was that bad. And I'm like, dude. And he starts swearing and yelling at.
Sweared at you
Oh yeah.
after?
And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
dude,
What was his justification?
He's like, well, do you think you own the lake? You're going to start on this spot? I'm like,
It's a community hole, according
I mean,
to him.
Well, even if it's a community hole, there's a level of distance that's acceptable.
Well,
And
this was
if
not
you guys
acceptable.
weren't on the juice and it was like a little ways down, like, and you maybe could cast to it with a 3/4 ounce jig, that to me is still, that's a gray area, right? But this is like where you're casting.
This
Like,
was like a pitch.
that is like that is like
Like we could have hit him with the rod almost.
I think I did try and hit his boat, and I put it like right
Right
at
off
his
the motor.
driver,
I
right off
always
the
throw
driver's
right
seat.
near their
I
boat.
think.
Yeah.
But so then the guy's yelling and swearing at me, and I'm like, dude, A, one, the kids are out here. B, this is behavior that'll get you disqualified. And then he's threatening to call in and stuff. I'm like, I have their number. I will gladly call, And then eventually he left, but he was yelling at us. I'm like, dude. I'm like, you got to knock this off. I'm like, I've been doing this a long time. And I'm like, this is absolutely dumb what you just did. We sat out here in the rain, and you come out after the rain and think you're going to get this spot. I'm like, and you just watched us net 2 fish. I'm like,
It's cold-blooded.
it's like not happening.
Well, you can maybe attest to this. Most of life's problems could be boiled down to bad parenting. I don't know if it was the dad or what, but that is like, talk about a good role model. Talk about teaching them
I think
how
he
it's
just
done. And we've all made mistakes on the water, but that sounds pretty intentional.
I think he made it just look like, he was just trying to be there, and he didn't think we were gonna care. But I mean,
Was he playing the old 16-footer pan fishing
Well,
game
and then
like
he
kind of
was
thing?
like-
Because I've seen that with them old guys and them tillers will.
no, we
like,
we were
pull right
following
up
down
to
the
you.
brake line, and he was fishing the inside, like kind of keeping like right in front of us. We're just working it down.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I forgot about that part of it, but I mean, now I remember clear as day.
we
how
had
it
we had
went.
another one. Like I think it was you.
Was it on Mille Lacs when we got blown out?
We're
was
on
a
Mille
different
Lacs. We're on another high school spot, and I've always been tried to been positive with everything that I've taught with Walker and Brady, and then Sean and Jordan. And we're on middle of Mille Lacs. We're up on the north end, and we were sitting there one day, and we were catching them, and we were shallow. We were like 8-10 foot off a main break area, and we're catching them. We're having a nice time, and next thing you know, this boat comes and is doing figure eights around us, and I'm like, what in the hell?
Like right where we're casting at. Just
I had a guy do that to me out there while I was fishing the NABC.
So then
And there's high school boats poaching my stuff. We just blasted them. We took second. We lost to Shane by 1/4 of a pound. And there's a high school, I don't know who it was, but they came out and they circled my boat. And I was fishing shit off the map. Anyway, sorry.
So then
interrupt.
there's another boat out there, and then these 2 kids are out there, and they're like, sorry. They're like, what are you guys sorry for? I'm like, what the hell is that all about? And they're like, well, that used to be our old coach or boat marshal or boat captain, and he didn't like us being on our spot. So that's why he came and blew it out, because
The kids in your boat.
no.
Oh.
this
Different
other boat,
boat.
there was another boat out there with us.
And you guys were both fishing this area.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so and then this other boat came and blew it all out and was doing hot laps. And then these other kids are apologizing. And I was like, well,
What did you do? Yeah.
what the hell is that about? And they're like, well, that was our old boat captain, and he must have been on one of the boat captain spots.
I got you.
And so,
I could see the boat captain maybe if they had to talk about that being upset, but that's not how you handle it.
So a little while later,
That ain't the
Jimmy
right way.
Bell calls, and then the next thing you know is he's like, you're going to be getting a call from a guy from Rapala, like the guy that's like oversees all of it. And they ended up disqualifying that guy for the next tournament or whatever. But
Yeah, I think the rest of the year or something like
yeah,
that. But
for his behavior.
Well, I think overall high school fishing's a good thing, and I never want to be the guy who's not supportive of that. But I think it's worth noting some of these things, and some of these things I've noticed where it seems like the parents or the coach is almost more competitive than their kids, and almost to the. I just remember hockey parents are
Oh, yeah.
hockey parents are fucking nuts.
I
If
used
you
to
want
play
to
hockey
see something
too, yeah.
some crazy shit, like parents getting kicked out of games for yelling at the refs, coach, like holy shit, this is squirts.
Yeah.
I mean, Walker and I both have played hockey over the years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I played it
Sure.
all the
We
way
all-
up through. So
Yeah, we
Great.
get that.
Yeah. So like high school fishing, I guess
There's
it seems like it's kind of an arms race between parents in a way too, and that I
it's
love
good
that
in-
we're growing the sport, but you gotta keep that.
the point where I'm all about showing the sport and having the kids enjoy it. The problem is it changed from when it first started. So now you went from maybe 100 teams to teams that are you're north of 250 on some of these lakes. And the next thing now they added money to this high school stuff. Back in the day, they didn't have the money involved. So now it becomes a money deal. And now you got greedy people because now you have you got scholarships and stuff and getting kicked in. Contingency money. They got Lunds kicking in contingency money if you own a Lund, the high school people. And then you got some of these parents that are going out and buying $120,000 Vexus and are running 5 graphs on it and loading it out. And they're
Better than buying a fucking Nitro, just saying. Vex is a hell of
Right.
a boat.
They are.
No offense to the Nitro owners out there. I'm sorry.
I do like the Vexus though.
They're nice.
I just can't afford it.
So, but
But it takes away from the kid that comes out with a 16-foot tiller with a 40 Johnson on it.
at the same time, I think Noah Schultz is a prime example of the Golden Gambler. Like that guy in a 16-footer can still win that bastard. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
If he couldn't, John Cox wouldn't still be on the Elite Series. You know what I mean? So there is something to be said about like any kid with that 16-footer listening. Like, don't get discouraged by more graphs, more any of that. Like, keep your head down and keep fishing, right? But hockey parents, like, we didn't win any money if you won a hockey game. And I saw how crazy hockey parents got for them hockey games, and there's no prize money. So you had scholarships, that sort of thing, and that kind of elevates things a bit, I think, and you've probably seen a lot more than I have. But
I mean, even from like the last, year I fished until like now, there's a huge change. I feel like a lot of the kids, you have your dedicated ones that are trying to make it through the high school, and then you got people that are fishing it because they have a parent that wants them to fish it and stuff like that. So they're trying to make them dedicated into it, but they can't really force it into it. You know what I'm saying?
you can't force it. Yeah. And I mean, I've never been a parent, but it's like I was first book that ever got read to me was Wayne Gretzky's biography. Like I got skates
nothing wrong
before
with
I got shoes, and I'm a bass fisherman now, and I still love hockey, but at the end of the day, if your kid likes to do theater, you kind of got to support your kid doing theater. You know what I mean?
And then there's still the kids that are having fun doing it. I mean,
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
Like some of the boat marshals I had too, just during Champions Tour, they're just having fun. They don't care how they do. They're just loving life and catching bass.
Well,
that's
you don't have to be a tournament angler. You don't have to become an Elite Series angler. It's a beautiful sport, and there's a lot of ways you can enjoy it. And I think,
especially with the high school, because you aren't into it much if you're around your house. It's easy to do, and you don't really have to pay much. You don't need a lot of time spent into it. Like for us, it was a lot different just because we had to drive for all of them. The closest one was either the river or Minnetonka. And that's at an hour and a half, 2 hours.
right.
So I mean, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, they you got like Walker, their team from Owatonna, they're going to Leech. You're spending 4 hours of driving, whereas a team from Brainerd's got an hour. And so the difference in the makeups and of
Hotels
and the costs and stuff. So I mean, there is some challenges that are created throughout, but and not going back against the 16-foot with the 40, because that's what I mean. Back in the day, that's what we were fishing out of on Muhammadu when we were fishing the tournaments as a kid, and that's the boat that we'd stripped and built in the decks, and we'd put in a live well, and that's what we were fishing. So I mean, not that it can't, and that was one of the things early on that I talked with Walker about and tried to. We don't need all of this extra stuff either. I mean, to make it work, and I think that's helped a little bit.
Yeah, because what'd you got, like, Now you got all these gadgets, right? I guess they
Yeah.
were around when you were probably in high school and stuff. And I guess what
Yeah.
tools did you have when you were kind of coming up, and what versus what tools do you have now, and what's been good? Yeah.
I think I didn't even know if I knew how to run side imaging when I first had my first boat. I mean, just down
Yeah.
imaging. I mean, just GPS, And then I pimped the 16-foot ProCraft out pretty good. I think I had a 360 on there at one point, maybe, or I had a 12-inch on the front and like a 10 in the back.
Okay.
So I mean, like, it was nothing special. They're like Gen 1's, just GPS and down imaging.
But 360 was kind of
I
that
don't-
first game-changing technology for you.
Yeah, and I think I got that when I got my Ranger. I don't think I had it on the ProCraft, but like the 360 was like the first one that I really had that I enjoyed, or that I actually learned from.
Sure.
And it was useful to the way I fished.
Yeah.
And then it went to live scope too, but I'm still not a big believer in the live scope. I like using it. Some people die by it, but I think I like the 360 better in a way, just because you can see the structure. And like the live is like, yeah, you're fishing individual fish and stuff like that. Like, I mean, like you said, like when I watched the video, like with Fothergill and all them guys, and you guys started talking about live scope down south, yeah, that's a big thing. But 360, yeah, so people, it's kind of a toss up with people, depending on where you live at in the state too, though.
Right.
Is a big thing, but
I think Fothergill made a good point, and I think the reason why he's really good with it is he knows when to, like, it's a tool. It's a tool for him,
He
knows it doesn't take him long to figure out if that's the tool he needs to run with that day, or if it doesn't, and he's got a quick hack for that, right? And I think 360 is probably one of the better structure fishing tools, and side imaging has done more for like my fishing in tournaments than I could ever imagine.
Even like the last 3 years with me in side imaging, like I just started like getting like where I could really dial it in depending on the lake. That's kind of been a big thing for me too. I wasn't very good with it. I didn't spend very much time behind the wheel and stuff like that. But now that I'm, doing more with it, whether I have tournaments or whatever, and learning how to actually see what's down there, like a brush pile that's really hard to see and stuff like that, so you can dial it in. I mean, that's been a big thing too. But
And I'm learning the live scope thing, and I've been it's so funny how it works, because I remember side imaging when I got good with side imaging. It was when I had a horrible practice and I needed to figure something out. So I drove all night, and it was like 4 a.m. I got really good at looking at that unit that night, and like
I bet, yeah.
really honed into it. And it was because I like forced myself to, right? And next thing you know, at 4 a.m., I'm graphing this, grass, and I've been looking at so much shit that I was really dialed into it. And all of a sudden I see this hard spot, that kind of makes a little in the grass, but it's really small and subtle. Like, I think I would have missed it during the day. Like, and we ended up winning the tournament off that by like 4 pounds. And that was on the whitefish chain. And then what it did for me after that was similar type things. But it, live scope, I didn't treat that way until recently. And what I've learned like in the last 3 weeks with live scope is more than I've learned in 2 years with it. And it's just because like I got my ass kicked in a few tournaments this year, and we had a couple good finishes, but we got humble pied this year in quite a few events, and I guess that was my
turning point on it.
Yeah, and I think it's one of them deals where it's a tool, and I'm learning that you can't get sucked into using it all day, but if you know when to pull it out and how to pull it out, and you're efficient with it, I think it's deadly. I just don't think we'll see people winning off that solely alone on most lakes up here. There's certain lakes where certainly you can, though, I think.
Well, see, and that's like, Timmy, he's old school.
I was going to ask. Yeah,
so
that's what I was going to segue
I don't know if I don't think I really learned a whole lot from you on like electronic wise and stuff like that, because
that's beautiful.
He's Lowrance, I'm Hummingbird.
I'm Lawrence.
Well,
yeah.
I'm a Lawrence.
He's working his way over.
We're switching them
You and
over
Noah.
really slow.
We gotta.
Them Gilmore checks started talking.
You know, I
The
think
360
you need
started talking.
Yeah, I got some stuff in the works. Hopefully for this upcoming year, we got a couple different deals I'm working on and partnerships. So we'll see where things go and
Switching to the good side.
and we'll see. Hopefully, we're in talks on a couple different companies of moving forward. I've learned. I learned a couple things from this year. I took away as one.
Blackfish, I think you changed your mind a lot with that whole deal too, with the 360.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, I knew that, but I mean, pushing the issue, electronics, I got to get better at using. If it doesn't matter which brand, I mean, but there's certain tools that need to be optimized, and like I said, we're working towards that. I also realized that the time and effort that these guys are putting in is tough. I'm an old guy compared.
Dude, you're working 3 to 3s.
And,
That's tough. Yeah.
I was working 110 hours every 2 weeks going into some of these tournaments and then trying to run with these guys. And I mean, I thought I was doing pretty good being at the landing like right at daylight. And Walker and Noah were beating me there by like 15, 20 minutes every morning. They'd already been in the water and stuff. So, I mean, I'd pushed myself to stay out there until dark with those guys. But, I mean, there was guys like even the championship. There's guys that were sleeping in their boats out on East-West Rush and
Ron, he pulled a feather. So
dedicated.
You know, and Dane was out there all night graphing.
Weren't you out there all night too, pretty much?
no, I had pre-practiced for Rush this time because I didn't practice for Serpent the year before, and I went in blind and it just sucked. So I said it wasn't happening again. So I didn't feel like I needed to, but there was a time Dane and I won a tournament on Tonka where I pulled down and I scanned till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then I pulled down in Maxwell, and I don't know what happened, but I woke up in Stubbs Bay. I fell asleep in Maxwell, and I woke up in Stubbs, and that's the only tournament we've ever won on Lake Minnetonka. And I looked at the side of the boat; it wasn't scratched, but that first dock on the left, as you go into Stubbs, the rub rail was just took.
I had one of
I
those.
woke up and I started fishing.
I had one of those days back in the day where I'd worked all night type of deal, drove to the lake, and it was on whitefish.
Okay.
And I was up in upper whitefish up by Arrowhead there.
Yep.
Taking a nap.
Spent some time up there in the night. Yep.
And next thing you know, I'm like, boat pulls up just because I just seen a boat floating up there. And I was like, here it's Ron Linder.
No shit.
Hey, Ron, how's it going? You know, like, he's like, oh, I just seen the boat floating up here and thought I'd come check it out. Like, oh, it's been a long day. I've been up for like 2 days straight and I drove up here and I've been trying to make it. And it was like hot out, you know, and it was like, I just was like in the middle of the afternoon. I'm like, I just can't, you know, I'm like
snapping.
But yeah, I mean, I used to do that all the time though. It was like,
yeah,
when we went to Pelican the one day or for the Champions Tour a couple years ago, that was like where I'd been up for like 3 days type of deal. And then we went drinking the one night and afterwards, and we had one of the high school kids drive us back. But it was, I was at the landing in town there by the gas station, and I was taking a nap, and Noah pulls in, and he's like, what? Somebody beat me to the lake? And he's like, it's dark, you know.
He told me that story, actually. Yeah.
And it was me, and he's like, oh, he beat me to the lake. It made him upset. It was like, I got beat to the lake.
Have you seen, Walker hasn't, there's no way, but have you seen the movie Wayne's World?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Dane and I, we call that shit like the old desert Indian trick. Yep. You won't, someday you'll see Wayne's World.
Okay. And
you'll understand.
All right.
You sleep on your boat yet? No?
No, I got, I bow fish enough in the springtime to where I kind of vary my hours depending on the season.
Oh,
that bow fishing's, I don't know how you hit them suckers.
Like when he's working, he'll pull up, when I'm launching my boat at like 10 o'clock, and then he'll pull up at 3, and we'll just talk, and We ain't got nothing better to do.
Yeah, so you know, that comes back to, you know, trying to be a positive role model and all this stuff throughout the years, and that's ultimately what I've always tried to do. Not only being a cop, but with these guys fishing and being there for your buddies and stuff, and obviously in the previous podcasts Noah's talked about he's dead in the water on Mille Lacs, and I came from the other end of Mille Lacs to get him in time to make it. That's how this whole thing started for him.
Yeah.
You know, I helped find him the motor, and man, that guy can fix anything and everything, and he slaps that in, but then you know, to get him to where he was at, and
he won't ever forget that. Just so you know.
Well, we got a couple other stories, but you know, like the night I had my heart attack, they were gonna cut me open in the hospital, and I'm like, hey, if I kick the bucket, call them. I'm like, if I kick the bucket tonight, and I just bought my skeeter, and I'm like, make sure my boat fishes the opens. There's enough insurance money. I'm like, just make sure you take my gear and fish the opens with it. And he's like, what? And I'm like, told him what happened and stuff. So they were sending balloons to the hospital, but yeah, then we've had a lot of good times over there where you're trying to be there for them. And there's an incident that took place too that will always be special in my heart with the Schultzes, and I'll remember it forever, and just means a lot. And they know what I'm talking about. They'll hear it, and Walker knows what it's about. But
sure,
we're not going to say that, but on air. But it's still why be a cop. Put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I guess there's a lot of people that don't know how hard that job is to do, and I guess. Maybe you can describe that so people understand it better, because right now we got a shortage, and I guess I don't want to discourage people either, but
well, I mean, it's a good job. I mean, in reality, it's provided. I've done it for 26 years now, so it's been a good run, and it's a good job. I mean, my oldest stepkid Colton, I was around him as he was growing up, and he's now a sheriff's deputy, and likes to enjoy fishing and hunting and stuff, and he's taken after a lot. But again, going back to just being a good positive role model, and I would say the same was Sean and Jordan, my high school kids prior to Walker that I boat captain for. They're both really good and have been good throughout the years, and now Sean's been boat captaining for some kids, and he bought a Phoenix at Intune.
Sure.
Banger calls me the one day. I was like, hey, is this really true? This kid's in here buying this Phoenix? He says he knows you. I'm like, yeah, that's one of my kids. Like, go ahead and sell it to him. He's like, okay. So yeah, but it's being that role model. Being that role model goes back into this story. Walker, he likes to bow fish, middle of the night. Him and Brady are out in the lake, and
this was like a school night too, I think.
It's middle of the night. We're on clear in Waseca, and they're calling me, and it's like midnight, 1 o'clock. I'm like, hey, there's something up in the woods in this one park. It's called Maplewood Park. They're like, there's something in the woods that's reflective up on shore. I'm like, we don't know what it is, but we can see it with the carp lights.
I was pretty sketched out at this point, because I'm like, I don't know what's up there.
There's
like
something moving up there?
Like, I just seen like almost like a tent looking thing. Like, I'm like, there's no one. I knew that no one was allowed in the park after dark because he closes it down. So I mean,
you found a hippie commune in the park?
I didn't know what it was. I mean,
so
I'm scared.
He was like, what the heck? So I'm like, all right. So I grab one of my guys, and I'm like, we go tromping back through the woods. And sure shit, here's this guy having a medical event, laying here in the shoreline of the woods, having a medical event. He would have died right there. Walker and Brady saved this guy's life by calling me. And then we had to fish this guy out of the woods, and we had to get the fire department out with their UTV and go in and carry him out, backboard him up to the UTV, carry him out. But yeah, that guy would have died there with his medical event in the woods, and nobody would have even known he was there.
Then, like, how many years later, same story. But
It was the same guy.
Same guy. And he wasn't having a medical though. He was wasn't he just hanging out or
He was
something?
fishing again from shore, but it was the same guy. He called me like, "There's somebody back in that same spot." And sure enough,
Yeah.
The reflector's back.
I'm like,
Was he have a
saying
bike
that.
reflector that you were seeing, or was
I
he
just
trying
seen
to
the
like?
well,
Was he trying to call for help?
I mean,
No,
my
it was-
lights light up. I mean, if you see them on the lake, they light
his
up.
eyeballs like roll back.
Oh yeah, I can
Probably.
see.
this guy had biked in there with like a bike, and then he had like one of those child strollers behind it that he pulled in his like stuff back there with him. So I'm sure it was one of the reflectors that hit off the bike.
Crazy story.
But then, Walker, has been around and is such a great kid. I mean, not this 4th of July, last 4th of July, we had an incident at the boat landing, and supposedly a gun was involved, and
Oh yeah.
Pull out your 6-shooter, boy, again.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't me.
but
I was just the
Smith
one,
and West.
just the one looking for it.
so then I've got a couple kids back at home. I mean, they're really good kids that are like to fish and stuff. But so we have this incident. It's 4th of July. There's like all the boats just got done with the fireworks, and somebody supposedly threatened to shoot someone, and supposedly this gun goes into the lake instead. So then I'm like, well, how do you find a gun in the lake? At this point.
Son, you got that live scope on you yet?
So I make a couple calls. I call Walker. I call his other partner Brady, and then kid that bought my boat Leo, and they all come, and then they brought some buddies. So I got a whole herd of kids that are here at the lake now, and I'm like, all right, we got to look for this gun. It's like midnight, 11 o'clock. Like, we got to find this gun. We got to check around this whole deal. They're all in the lake helping me look for it. I mean, Walker brings his
Free gun
I
in the lake.
brought my bow fishing boat out.
He
there.
brings the cart
Okay.
boat
Yeah.
to light it all up for us, and then Brady he's a roofer, so he brings the big roof rollers to pick up all the magnets. So we got those in the water trying to pick it up, and we got kids in there swimming, but
I
I
never
mean,
found it. I mean,
there wasn't one. I don't think there ended up being one.
Yeah,
But-
we would have found it if there was. I think.
My brain went to the weirdest spot ever. Like, do you think there's like investigators that are like professional live scopers, but like for dead people?
Oh, we've tried to find guns with.
Yeah,
with
that's
the
about
side-
that's about $1.50. Yeah, not the one. Oh, that's $2. That we should throw the hook down at that one, Billy.
So yeah, we've tried to do the side scan a couple times where we've tried to find certain
bodies?
Well, we've done that too over the years.
Cars,
Back in the day when I worked wire patrol, I mean, we had a couple people. We've pulled a guy out of Mille Lacs and stuff. So I mean, we've had an airplane and trout. We've done. So we've had some different stuff over the
Airplane and
years.
trout.
Yeah,
Airplane crashed and trout.
That
And
was
you had to
just-
get it.
Yep.
That was
That's
like
cool.
Mille Lacs though too. Did you ever? That was a shame. That.
I'm gonna need a beer
Did you not
break.
hear about that?
Yeah. Beer break.
Yeah.
No, I never heard about that. So did you fish as an AM?
Yep.
Okay.
I call myself the professional non-boater.
Well, dude.
I hate fishing. I really like the whole team aspect of it, being just hanging out and have a real nice time in the boat, like as a team.
Well, I feel like you're a fun guy to have in the boat. I mean, you fished with Shane Raveling, Mark Raveling, Dean Capra. I mean, you just
Teddy. I mean,
Hibdons. You
the
fished with
Hibdons
the
back.
Hibdons?
There was a
That's
deal
cool.
back in the day on Minnetonka that I fished with them. I mean, let's see, Cody Drazel. I think I said his name.
He's a Tom.
I fished out there with him. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done, like I said, throughout the years, with the Pro-Am, I mean, Jim Severson I've fished with.
Hell of an angler.
Your buddy that you learned a lot from,
Doug Petrak.
yep, fished with him.
Dougie? Where'd you fish with him at?
Minnetonka.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, I mean,
he's done well, but I don't think he's ever done good there.
but, yeah.
Hell
we
of an
did-
angler, though.
Yeah, it was like one of the spring deals that we fished with him back then. But I
He's a simpleton.
think we were throwing a rattle trap that day, or I was throwing.
Oh, he would do
I think
that
I
a
was
little
throwing a spinner bait, and I think I had like 2 northerns and a muskie. I think I had like 60 pounds and like 5 casts. I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to throughout the years, and I think been very fortunate enough to learn from those guys that I've been in the back of the boat with for the longest time. Like I said, I'll even tell Noah, I call myself the professional non-boater because I've been used to fishing in the back, and that's where helped benefit me. Because when you're fishing with those kinds of sticks and they're catching them, you better figure out what it is that they're doing or watch what they're doing, or you're not going to catch them. So, or do something different than them. Like if one's
let
throwing,
your jigworm sit and open your fucking bail.
Yep.
Like, I'm guessing that's where you got that a little bit, is fishing behind them guys, not to take you off your track.
No, I mean that's just things that like you got to do something a little different or fish it a little slower. If they're flipping bull rushes or something, and you got to fish the outside, or if you got to bomb it to the bank and over to the top, like. I remember one of the tournaments I fished with Steve Quinn from In Fisherman. Legend. On leech.
Okay.
And I was having a real bad day that day. It was like a 2-day deal. I'd zeroed. It was an AM. Sometimes you get a guy that doesn't practice. The day before, I had a guy that didn't practice leech, and he was dead set on fishing dead rice, so you're not catching.
Gotcha. Yep.
And then the next day...
Noted.
Or that night, my canine, I was a canine officer, and he was retired, but he was living at home with me. It died. And so I was having a bad night, and the next day I fished with Steve, and we're fishing bull rushes, and, he's front dead right in, so you had to figure out something different behind him. And so I was bomb casting up and over the bull rushes behind him, and I was wheeling him out. And he's like, I've never been out fished like that ever in my life, so... But yeah, that's where just things of learning that in the back of the boat, and those people that I've been fortunate enough to hang out with over the years. And I mean, for the last, since probably 2004, I've hung out with Shane and Mark and those guys, and Shane's like one of my best friends now. And
yeah.
I mean,
well, they're their own mafia. So like that's how you learned your mob ways a little bit, I think.
Well, I mean, selling my wedge, which was Mark's my wedge deal, and I mean I've helped sell the my wedge across the country. I've been to with Shane across the country to
ICAST,
not ICAST, but the Bassmaster Classics and all the different shows and Sportsman Show and other sportsman shows. We'd go sell the wedge, and which is the only thing I've ever ran on any of my outboards and stuff. So it's a great motor support and whatnot. But I've had the fortunate time of hanging out throughout the years. I mean, ice fishing, Ravelings, Mark and Shane both ran fish house rentals back in the day. Shane ran them on Mille Lacs, and I mean, I
didn't know that.
I spent like 50 some days up on Mille Lacs in 2007 into the 2008.
Fun was had, I bet.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, there's just those relationships and deer hunting with those guys, and it just been a great learning experience, and you just take it all in. And I probably spend just about as much time with Shane as I have with my wife, so she'll tell you. I mean, selling FXR gear across.
That's a big personality to be spending a lot of time with Shane. And I was going to ask you this. I have the utmost respect for Shane Raveling, and I think he's one of, like you, Shane, and Mark. I put you on a premier level, and I've fished against Shane more than I have you, but you fished with Shane more, than just about anybody. And there's something to the way he ticks. He ticks a little bit different than anybody I've ever seen. And he's like, when I think of Shane Raveling, I think of Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart. And he would tell me it's Walk a Flock of Flame, but I would say it's Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart's what I think of. Like, he's like, let's go. Oh.
Yeah, the Waka Flocka Flame has definitely been played a few times over the years. So, yeah, he's got it dialed up. When he gets going, he'll tell you, and it's better than most. And you're on a lake, and all of a sudden the wind will change, or the sun comes out, and it'll be like, oh, we gotta go here, and he'll pull up and run across that lake, and all of a sudden you'll go to a spot, and they're like, why the hell are we here? Next thing you know, you're peeling on them. So,
And that was, I was going to ask you a little bit about that, because that's what I've heard, and he's such a gamer, it seems like, and he's a little bit out of the game now, and it sounds like he's doing a little more volleyball stuff with, like, he's being a dad, like more dad role now with the girls. But dude, he's a gamer. Like, I don't know what it is, but he's like, we talk about great anglers, right? And there's like there's those what the fuck guys, right? There's great anglers, and then there's those like what the fuck guys, like,
well,
and Shane, Noah, Seth, like those would be the three names that come to mind.
So talking about Seth, I fished with him as an am in the back of the boat back in the day. We're on Green and Spicer. That was right after they opened up the smallmouth, so the smallmouth were on fire.
Yep.
And Seth was, I think he was probably 18 or 19 at the time, and he was running his little blue Ranger and with yellow stripes, the little 518 or whatever. And man, did we have a good time. We had smallies laying in the boat, and he's like, slow down and quit catching them, because he's trying to weigh them. I'm like, I was just peeling on him. He's like, whoa. So, I mean, every now and then I'll text him out of the blue and whatnot. And he's been coming down to Clear Lake and Waseca and fishing too for some of his sponsor deals. But every now and then I'll text him. I'm like, hey, make sure you throw a spinnerbait or something, just because that's what we were catching them on back in the day. But
right.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had to.
I mean, that's cool.
I've fished with a lot of great sticks over the years, and I've learned a lot. And like I said, it's to you better be catching or you're behind.
Yeah, and I guess like it's the $1 million question, but what's that from what you've seen in the boat? What's that extra level, or what's that extra tick? And I know you've seen it and felt that extra tick when you're on, and you can't be like when you're rolling, that state of flow, that state of rhythm, that momentum that you feel. And I felt that, but there's guys who seem to be able to turn it on every day, right? And that's what we all strive for. And I guess you've experienced time in the boat with people like that, and maybe you've got a better idea of kind of what the different aspects are that make them tick different, that propel you to that level. That's what we're all working for, right?
I mean,
experience, probably, I would say.
The drive. I mean, like those guys. I mean, they have like another gear, and I mean, even Walker this year, I seen the drive change from the past years. In past years, we'd be, for one of his high school events, for example, we'd be up at his Mille Lacs, and he had his trailer up there, and he'd be like, hey, just go back to bed, I'm tired. And he wouldn't get out of bed, and his alarm would go off for like 2 hours straight. I'm like, well, it's your practice. I'm like, if you want to sleep, I'm sleeping then. But now it was like this year, man, he was up and gone, and be out of the house or the cabin, and be like, I'm like, man, what happened to the kid that slept in and stuff? And
he's mad at him.
Yeah, he was definitely mad at him, and like
mad at him this year for sure.
And Noah, that guy's mad at him, and
he's always mad.
He goes to sleep and wakes up mad at him.
Yeah, but he goes to bed at like 8:30, and he's up at 3:30. When I'm getting off of work and going home, it's like he's probably on the way to the lake, so I'll be texting him or something and be like, hey. He's like, yeah, I'm on the way to the lake, and I'm like, well, I'm going to bed. I'm like, I haven't been to sleep already, whatever. But I mean, he sits and gets up and starts every day watching fishing videos or shows or podcasts or listen to the stuff. And his memories, like, and his drive, like, he'll drive around. And so, I mean, you got to have the drive.
That's what makes him different, though, is he's not distracted in like the winter at all and stuff like that. He's always thinking about summer, spring, and fall for fishing. all, he ain't worried about the winter. He's just studying up all winter long.
He breathes it.
Oh, yeah.
Breathes it.
See, I'm too busy in the spring, I'm bow fishing. And then the fall, I get to hunting, and I'm distracted all the time. Winter, I'm ice fishing, I'm not sitting at home, just studying, doing research for the next year, I think
that's what I do, and I'm not Noah, but I breathe. I'm always
what was
thinking
your
about it. I'm tying all winter. I'm watching shit all winter. I'm working on my game,
and look at how consistent you were this whole summer. You were consistent.
On Champs Tour, I was consistently mediocre. Yes, Walker.
You were not mediocre. No, no, not a chance.
Well, I guess so. Us talking about that made me think, well, we all played hockey, so we've all... Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. They have a wide variety of home loan programs in their tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time home buyer options. Just ask me. I trusted Aaron Dagas, a bass fisherman just like you and me, and Supreme Lending's Dream Team to help finance my first home. Contact Aaron Dagas and the Dream Team today by scanning the QR code or giving them a call at 763-326-0677. That's 763-326-0677. Did I catch a 7 in there? Or visit their website, aarondages.supremelending.com. That's AARONDAEGES.supremelending.com. This podcast is brought to you by my brother from another mother, my tournament partner, and the best rod builder north of the equator that still has 20/20 vision, Waseca Fishing and Customs, specializing in custom fishing rods. Your custom rod, the way you want it, because it has to be your rod. However, he has a wide variety to choose from, including his all-new for 2023 custom chicken rod. If you throw the big fluff, the hairy Gary, the rotisserie dissery, the half-ounce Palomalu, the 3/4-ounce rooster biscuit, the lightener looking like D. Snyder, you're going to want to be throwing the Waseca Fishing Chicken Special Big Hair Jig Rod. Mr. Waseca spent a lot of time on this rod, and it has the perfect action to throw, hook, and land those fish that you maybe pulled the bait out from because the rod was too stiff, or had them spit it because your rod didn't have the backbone. Well, the new Chicken Special from Waseca Fishing and Customs has worked to solve both of those issues, along with superior balance and quality components. So head on over to his website, WasecaFishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. Pick this rod up before it's too late, because up here in the North Country, they about to be schooling. Seeing the movie Miracle, right? So you know the story of Jimmy Craig.
I like Youngblood better.
Oh, great one. Goon, Mystery Alaska. Have you seen Mystery Alaska? Great movie. If you haven't, you got to see Mystery Alaska. Russell Crowe, John Beebe. But anyway, you guys made me think of Jimmy Craig, right? He's like, you want me to take you a test? I'll take you a test. And Jimmy was a goalie who maybe wasn't the best goalie at tryouts. He wasn't the best goalie at camp. And Craig's like, wait, you're having Jimmy Craig back up Janicek? And Herb Brooks is like, other way around. And the assistant looks at him like, Janicek won a national championship for you last year, Herb. He's like, Jimmy's like, he hasn't been the same since his mom passed. And he's like, have you ever seen him when his game's on? And Herb had to like pull that out of Jimmy for that 1980 Olympic game when they played the Russians. And it's like, there's that level to your game with fishing, with hockey, with football, whatever it is. And there seems to be guys that can just, they love it, they're mentally tuned in, but it's a mental sport, ultimately. That's what I've learned. And Shane was very good at that aspect of it. and there's a confidence to it too. Shane, you talked to Shane Raveling. He's the most confident human being you've ever met in your life. I promise. Tim will tell you.
Mason's, I mean, he's going to be just as good as Shane, if not already that good.
Shane and Mark seem so different to me. Like, talking to both of them. Shane and Mark are very different. I was good at, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they both have their, but that's what makes, and makes them a good team, and when those two are fishing tournaments together, man, they were winning everything, you know. So it just, but yeah, one would fish slow, one would fish fast, and then they would do that was made them a great team when they were fishing. So
Sure.
And that's why you and Noah are so good together too back at home.
You two
I
team
don't
up?
I don't dare show up if them guys are fishing
You
together.
keep it on the trailer?
Yeah.
well, we did for a while. We were teamed up, and
There's always one tournament that hammers home.
Yep.
You guys always fish that one together, and I don't even know why I show up anymore. It's like them guys crack them every time. It's like,
but I mean, over the years, like there's the one Tuesday night league down in the cities that we were able to jump into for the 1 year, and it was like Noah and I just mopped them up and mowed them all down and whatnot. But that's like the one that Roush and Sobey and those guys are in, and Willert used to fish, and
Sure.
but yeah, we did really good with the 1 year. I think we had first, second, like all the time and stuff. But yeah, we fished quite a bit and back in the day, and it was like, going into the electronics, and he's obviously a Hummingbird guy, and man, he studies and he knows, and he goes out and uses those things, and it's definitely a game changer. And like you said, we're in the works for working on maybe changing some stuff up for the upcoming year. So hoping to have some of those Hummingbird electronics on the front of the Skeeter and stuff. So
best of the best.
and
We got to get you on that.
But we had that Mega 360 is definitely key. I definitely know that. I mean, we've one tournament back home. We were fishing a brush pile, and you could see them sitting around that brush pile.
How'd that get there?
There's natural brush piles down, but
Natural.
There's this group, out of that group of guys we talked about down there. There's definitely guys that are sinking stuff.
There gotta be.
So,
as mad as y'all are at
I
them?
think you're looking at one that sinks stuff too. So
no, I don't.
But I haven't sank anything, but a squad car in the lake, I suppose, back in the day.
Yeah,
I do want it. Okay.
But
not on purpose.
no, that was the same with the boat on the river, so that's why I don't go to the river anymore. But
Dude, I'd be such a bad cop. Like, you give me a walkie-talkie, and I'm like, breaker 19, this is Mother Goose to Foxtrot. Do you copy?
You'd be
The fox is in the hen house. I mean, the squad car's in the lake. Call for backup. I wouldn't give tickets. I'd be such a shitty cop. I'd be like,
You'd be pulling over just everyone. Just,
be like, show me your power worms.
I just wanted a conversation.
we've done that a couple times.
I wouldn't even ask for drugs. I'd be like,
You've pulled me
you got
over
tackle in the back
before."
of this boat? You got tackle in the back of that truck, sir? Yeah, I'm gonna need to see. I'm gonna need to search.
All of it.
Some of those.
That's
guys,
how you got all that juice. That's how you
Those
got
guys-
all the goods.
The guys come to the landing. Some of the elite guys have been down, and then they're doing their sponsor deal and requirements. And Sobey's been down, and I pulled in the parking lot and just jacked them up. And Robinson. What's the Robinson that played for the Vikes?
Brian Robinson.
Bryanson, he's a bass guy, and he was in there doing a show with the hunting crew from down by Rochester, but guy and husband, what the heck's their name? They were there one day, and the cameraman's like, "Hey, can you arrest Brian here, and we'll put this in the video?" And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, sure." So I'm like, "Hey, you took too many fish out of the lake. This is protected." And
Oh, that made the show?
I
didn't
don't
watch
know
the
if
show, but I'd watch it.
I don't know if it
I'm
never made
surprised.
it, but yeah, we
I got drunk with Brian Robinson one time.
we've had
The classic.
a good time.
I wonder why he doesn't fish Champs Tour.
I think he lives in Texas now.
Yeah, he's in
Oh.
Texas or somewhere.
I didn't know
He owns a
that.
tackle shop down there.
God, wouldn't that be cool? You got Buff,
I heard he
and
owns
you
a
got
pretty nice
Robinson, you got NFL, you got NHL.
I was thinking today it'd be cool to have like Randy Moss on here. Pull your 84 jerseys out and back home.
Well, I mean, some of those tournaments those celebrity tournaments that have been had over the years, on Minnetonka. I mean, you could probably pull some of those guys. I mean,
Dane fished with Randy.
I've done some of those guys.
I got fished with Robert Smith.
Okay.
Running back for the Vikings back in the day.
I've had a few. I don't remember. I mean, I had one of the guys from the 80 Olympics hockey team. I got a signed book from him even.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, over the years, I've done some of those celebrity deals up on Minnetonka too. And
see, I missed out on them days. Like, just all them tournaments, whether it be the Silverados or anything like that.
Well, you haven't been around that long. You're 19,
No,
bud.
but I wish I was in that generation, though.
Me too. I wish I was like, I don't know, that 90s era.
It would've been a fun...
90s to early 2000s seemed like the golden years of bass fishing. Like,
when you could actually be like a co-angler and win money and have a bigger series, And
it's like the late 60s and 70s for music. It was like just the golden years, dude.
It would have been fun. I mean, it would have been fun. And
Dude,
you
it
would
was just
have,
on the come up, like...
Yeah.
That the Gander Mountain one year, it was like 2004, I think. It was like a big one on whitefish, and then they had like an extra $20 side pot that you could kick in. So like big bass was like $2,600 just for big bass. And
payouts were better then than now.
I mean, yeah.
so I was with Liferman,
Okay.
of all people on that out there, and I'd practiced the hell out of it, and I'm like, I had him dialed up pretty good. Back then he's like, well, I'm Liferman, and he'd been winning shit,
Yeah,
so obviously
I won the
he's
Don
Shelby,
Shelby,
and
like,
who
who the fuck are you?
you're just an am. I'm like, well, we gotta go over here, and we caught some, and then
You don't know me yet, but I'm Big Timmy Schroeder. And this is a
Yeah.
jigworm.
you
You haven't met yet, but you're about to.
Big Fish Tim.
yeah, no one calls me Big Fish Tim. So,
Yep.
but
Big Tim Callahan's son.
we were fishing, and I jack one right in front of Andy Young. He's coming down this weed edge.
Oh, yeah.
And Andy's coming at me, and I had bombed cast. I was throwing top water, walking a Sammy across the water, and all of a sudden, it was like a 4 1/4 back in the day. That was a pretty good one on whitefish. And so I win, big largie. This is before smallies, back it was.
Right. Like, he didn't used to catch them things.
Right. So
That's what's crazy.
I end up winning big bass out of this thing. And then that was like back in the day, you had the unwritten rule. It's like, well, do we split? Do we not split?
Did you say Sammy?
Yeah.
You talking like 90s Sammy or early 2000s? How long has Sammy been around? That's
That was
like
the early 2000s.
that was like a high level bait at the time. You're
Yep.
like, yeah, I got these.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
I can't read the back of the box, but
So-
these things walk like awesome.
I catch the big one, and I caught it, and it was jumping, and Andy's like watching. He's like, that was great, End up winning big fish that day. It was like $2,600.
That's crazy.
And next thing you know is like, back and then, as an am, you're like, well, yeah, we split. But if the pro catches it, then it's like, well, I'm thinking I ain't giving it any to you. Brad's chasing me around, and hey, we're splitting, right? Like, I suppose. So then, we're splitting the cash out and counting it out, making sure it was right. But I mean, some of those tournaments back then were big. That was $2,600 for big bass.
Dude, that's
alone.
first place in some events now.
They need to bring them back. I mean,
it's such a flooded market now. It was new territory at the time. Like it was, and I hear about Irwin Jacobs a lot, but I think he was a significant part of like money getting put into that sport and like.
Yeah, I mean that Jacobs and Teddy Capra and those guys, and that all started, and then the lottery was involved, and that was a big influence too. But then that went sideways and went away, and then Gander Mountain took over, and Hesse ran that for a few years, and I mean it was a good time.
I heard Hesse was a legend.
Yeah, it was, like I said, I mean, any of those tournaments, I don't even know if you'd remember, but back in the day, there was a circuit called Team Supreme. So that was like a bigger little circuit that
Back in Nam.
Yeah, probably then, but it was a bigger circuit that had started, and I think it even sort of came up from like down south. And, you go talk about being on whitefish, and I'd worked wire patrol and all that stuff out there. And I was telling my buddy who I was fishing with, we were fishing tournament, and telling about the stories out there and stuff that had taken place. And you take off out at moonlight, and you're right by the wharf, and here comes this boat, Team Supreme tournament, whatever it was. And it was like, here comes this boat. They'd been out partying all night, and couple guys, couple gals, and one guy reaches up and takes the gal's top off and throws it out the back of the boat. So then the gal takes her bottoms off and jumps in, and the next gal's like strips down, jumps in, and then the next guy jumps in. And it was like, my buddy looks at me, he's like, did that just really happen? And we were like, one of the first few boats, and like, we had a hell of a
This is in the morning?
7:00 in the morning. And we had a hell of a log jam going on. It was like, all these boats are coming through the channel at the wharf, and it was like, it was dead stop. Here all these out swimming around, and he's like, did this stuff really happen? I'm like, oh yeah, this happened all the time out here.
Best tournament takeoff ever, dude. My sticks. Jeez.
Yeah, they kept the Dick stayed in that time.
Good. That's good.
That time. There was other ones, and sometimes they weren't in. So, but yeah, it was
I
bad.
bet you've seen some shit, but what's the like you fish with so much fishing knowledge. What is the coolest thing you've seen in the boat or learned in the boat? Out of all those guys, I know there's probably countless things, but
I mean, I usually try to take something from everything. Just
of course.
I mean, putting like the day fishing with Seth and knowing where he's at, and just putting the waylay on him and making him weigh the fish. There isn't many people that can say that he had him weighing fish.
No, and it's that sport though. It's that sport where you can do that in this sport.
And then we had Shane and I had a really good day. A couple days it was like one of the first years the Champions Tour. It was like it was probably the first year of the Champions Tour, and they were on Mille Lacs, and it was like a first week of June type tournament. So I was practicing with him, and man, did we had a time. We caught like 100 and some smallies one day, and it was just like walleyes and smallies, and I think in 7 casts I had walleyes and smallmouth, but it was every cast I had a 7.4 smallie, and I mean it was insane. I mean, walleyes that were pushing like 28 inches, and it was like just insane. And so I mean that was a heck of a day. And we had another day we were out up on Mille Lacs drop shotting, and he's fishing in his walleye boat.
Yeah.
And drop shotting out in the middle of the lake, and set hook, and all of a sudden like, what happened? Where'd that fish go? Or what happened? Smallie came out at 25 feet of water, jumps over the side of the 620, lays on the back deck, and lays there. Doesn't flop, just says, all right, unhook me. Take it off, put him back in the lake. He was like, obviously been caught. He cleared the side of a 620, jumped in the boat. And Shane's like, well, did that just happen? I'm like, yep.
That fish is like, okay, let's get this over with.
But I've seen that before on Mille Lacs.
They jump in the boat?
Well, not in the. I've had fish jump in the boat. Northerns, but not a smallie. But
that's crazy.
We were on Mille Lacs when we had fish house rentals, and we had a fish swim up the hole. We fell asleep, swam up the hole, and was waiting with his head out of the hole. He'd swam around, got tired, and swam up the other hole that the line was down. He was like waiting for him to be taken off.
That's so fun. So my buddy and I went to a new lake this past Sunday, JP, and it was like perfect whopper plopper conditions. And I hadn't really thrown much of a whopper plopper all year, so I pulled the old whopper plopper out and start catching some fish on it or whatever. But all of a sudden, the whopper plopper, like I'm reeling it, and it's like to the boat, and I just don't like reel it up on my rod. It's like right there, and I'm just like talking to JP in the back, and all of a sudden, splash! I'm like, and I saw it, and one missed it, and I was like, oh shit! And I like pulled it like 2 feet to the left, right by the boat, and the thing just came up and engulfed it. Full size plopper. This is like a 2.5 pounder. It was wild. So like, there's some weird shit that'll happen in the boat, and I have a question because I'm very thankful for that Mafia at the time. I learned about the Jigworm Senko from, which it's not as deadly as it was at the time, but I'm wondering who showed who the Jigworm Senko, and there's another worm that's similar to a Senko, but I learned it through Nick Gross, who learned it, who was Paul Roush's partner, and Nick Gross lives 10 houses down and was spawn of Doug Petrak, and then I fished with Nick Gross once Doug left, but I learned the Jigworm Senko from him, and I like that thing, or I used to really like it anyway.
The
deadly.
Obviously, Paul and I grew up. I mean, like I said, as kids we'd fish the lake back home. So I mean, the jigworm thing we've done since we've been a kid. So I mean, we were doing it before it was a thing, And like I said, we were throwing it on a 4-inch ring fry or a ring power worm.
Yeah.
Back then. Yep. So I mean, that was before even it got to the worms. We were throwing them on a 4-inch. They were even smaller. So it was like almost a Ned head hook now.
Right.
But with a 4-inch worm back then. So I mean, it really started there. But there is another bait that I throw that cost me the chance to win at Wahamadoo, because I was going to I wouldn't put it down. And it was, I don't know if they put it.
Great lure.
They
don't make it no more. Well, someone does.
There's a knockoff to it.
I seen it in your boat.
Yeah, no, I got some on the shelf up there. They're made in Minnesota by a company right now, and it makes pretty damn good ones.
Well, I still stick.
They're promoting the shit out of them, so I'll say it, but I won't say it here.
No, they're good.
It's up to you.
They're
that ain't my place to be. That's his place to be.
I own every one that I could find in the country.
I couldn't get the color I wanted, you fucker.
I have like multiple colors, and I own every one that could be found.
I got the hot ones. I finagled them from you the other day.
So
about like 10 of them, I think, maybe.
But yeah, we had some of those, and then we've done that one. That one's really one of the big fish baits that has been really good over the years. There is another one that Berkeley or Gulp used to make back in the day. I don't
Sinking minnow?
The sinking minnow.
You jigworm that?
Jigwormed it or wacky rigged it. I mean, there was a time.
You said scent worked on Wahamadoo. Did you try the sinking minnow out there?
I own like 10 packs left of that, but for some reason, like there was like a certain time frame that man, did that thing just catch them? Like it just caught the snot out of them. I don't know if they changed the makeup of it or just the solution or the scent, but there was like a 2-3 year window with that it didn't matter where you were. You threw that thing out there, you were winning the Derby.
I just picture Anthony Fauci right now. If you don't believe in Gulp, you don't believe in science.
That's it. It was done. I mean, we sat on Pryor one night and caught like 100 of them in one spot on Pryor and just peeled on them.
I remember when that Gulp 3-inch smelt deal came out, and you went smallmouth fishing with that on a drop shot, and they just came unglued on that little. This is the dumbest looking bait you could ever throw. Just a 3-inch Gulp minnow.
The one Jordan Lee designed?
No, the walleye one.
Oh,
the one the walleye guys jig.
He likes the champ minnow.
Drop shot.
That champ minnow. Like I got away from
in the realistic colors.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I showed him them, and he's like, "I need all the ones you got in your boat, because I don't know. You're fishing Champs tour. That was
probably for the boat.
Yeah.
That was probably for the boat a couple years ago.
On the lax.
Yeah.
You nose hooking them suckers just on a drop shot?
Yeah.
You're the first guy who's ever mentioned throwing that bait.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thrown it in a long time.
Well, I have.
It's a good bait, though. I mean, it's real nice in the water, but I still like the flatworms. It's this confidence bait, though.
I don't catch shit on those.
It's confidence.
I don't understand. Like, I don't catch shit on a
Noah's the same way. He doesn't like the flatworms.
I would love it if they ate it when I threw it at them.
I
catch them on everything besides a flatworm.
He watched me on Mille Lacs when I was vertical jigging them suckers, and whatever, 3-4 footers, and sat there all day with it in my hand, and I could see him, caught him.
You want to talk about painful? Sitting and watching them fish, and like, oh, there's one on the rock, and I'm like, I can't fish, as a boat captain. I'm like,
Dude, that's the hardest thing.
that was just, but then you're not only are you were still learning, even watching the kids.
All day. Yeah.
So I mean, you're helping them, but then you're still watching and learning. So I mean, it wasn't like a waste.
Well, and you typically, when you're in the boat, like out for a day, you don't observe from that angle. So I'm sure there's things you pick up throughout the day that you maybe wouldn't have even picked up on the trolling motor,
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, I fish different than Tim too, in certain places, and I have different baits I throw and stuff like that. So I mean, he learns from me, I learn from him. All take some, give some,
That and that's probably why you two have a good relationship. And I learned that at a young age with Nick, Doug, people I fished with. I felt like just so grateful. Tony Hatton, guys like that I felt so grateful at what they were teaching me, right? So I was mad at them. So I'd go figure some shit out, and I wouldn't tell people, but I would always tell those guys what I figured out. And there's a few times where, it's a give and take. And I guess what's some shit Walker's taught you that you maybe wouldn't have figured out? Like old dog, old tricks, but you got the young calf here, trying all the new stuff and figuring some shit out.
Oh, he's definitely got some new tricks in that I haven't learned, and he does pretty good at keeping his mouth shut.
I can tell
stuff. So
in like the last couple of years in the whole fishing industry is like big changes have came just with baits and stuff, new baits.
Crazy.
Like Waypoint, that place is like, I go in there and it's dangerous. Like I'm walking out with $500 worth of stuff every time.
Yeah.
They got juice.
I'll drive an hour and a half. I don't know. I drove up there 5-6 times, I think, before Champions Tour. Just, I'm like, well, I'm close. Might as well swing in there and go check out some stuff. And there's some stuff that's been figured out.
Yeah.
Dude, I got a few baits.
He'll be calling and be like, hey, I got to make a stop on the way up. I got to go over the waypoint and make a donation. So,
dude,
when the last time I was up, we had a little conversation about some of them baits, and I mean, like,
we did.
Like some of that stuff is just sweet that you can't get anywhere else.
Right. Did you tell him about the old craps? The old.
No.
Smart.
No, that's something that stays in the pocket.
Keep that between us.
Yeah, for sure.
If the mob boss finds out about that,
off with your head.
We're done.
All of them would be gone, like the other bait.
What's some shit you learned from Walker? I know you taught him everything, so he maybe taught you something. What's something you throw that you didn't throw before?
No, maybe I don't know if you knew about
from the sound.
The
gills.
No,
I think you knew about that. Yeah,
I had those ordered.
The bellows.
Yeah,
you throw them
a little bit. I
throw them different. I throw them different than he throws
them.
Okay. So
me and Noah.
That's how I got second on whitefish.
Really?
So
Noah, they skip good, don't they?
They do skip good.
There's a lot of different ways to fish that bait. I tell you that. Like Noah showed me some stuff on how to fish them. I'm like, that's weird. Like
you Nico it?
No.
Ever? Yeah, I've never really messed with it, but
no, I actually yeah, you can do that with the
Nico hack deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you Nico any weird stuff besides a worm? I pretty much have only had luck with a worm.
Yeah, a little bit. I messed with their bellow sticks a little bit too. I like them.
I never caught dick on them.
They look good.
They do.
I mean, you catch some fish, but it's not like your trick worm or something dumb like that.
Yeah,
but I mean,
let's see. What have I brought from? He had this one swimmer head bait that he'd put a worm on.
Oh, yeah, that one's hot.
That one's pretty good.
I brought that out.
Swimmer head bait that you put a worm on. So are we talking like a swim bait head?
No.
No, it's like that, but
it's something I brought up from Alabama. I bought them down there.
8-inch fucking silver spoon?
No.
It's just a head design. You just fish it different.
Okay. Yeah.
You just fish it a little different, but yeah, it's a bait that works. You fish it a little different. It's almost like a swim bait.
Yeah, a swim bait or, a chicken.
I never understood like them guys down south. They'll throw a worm on like a wobblehead, and
I can't catch them on doing that.
I've never tried, but it just doesn't. I don't know. It just
Actually,
it doesn't
I
like.
take that back. Yeah, I've caught a few on that down
Was it
south.
like that
On the
or
wobble?
more in the water column?
No, it's you can fish it different ways. I
Sure.
mean, it's just on a chicken head. I mean, you can fish it very differently. I mean, you do anything with it.
The shit'll drive you nuts, dude. Like, dude, you know what I mean, right?
I mean,
like,
if
the
you-
shit'll drive you nuts. Like when you
Look at
when you get
this,
smoked 10-1, like with a little tweak, or like all of a sudden, like it
just
makes you so driven to keep finding that.
it's something that's like you'll get a few more extra bites on it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't throw it all day, but I'd throw it once the school's burned out,
Yeah, yeah.
or get a big bite or something like that. It's kind of cool to. It's just different. I mean,
But that's
it
you
looks
know,
dumb.
But it's something different, and that's where to be competitive against these guys, you got to always be looking for the next best thing, something that
This
isn't.
guy right here.
Well, I know he likes to play with. I mean,
I
obviously,
almost played to my own demise, but I'm
You-
always looking for the
you-
next thing.
Yeah,
just looking
you-
through your little stuff, there's definitely some different stuff laying around here that
And-
I don't have, and I have like
And Noah's the same way too. He does the same exact thing. He's looking up videos, how to rig this, how to rig that. And you guys are always, I throw something different. You figure it out.
Well, dude, what we're up against, like we're up against Tim Schroeder. We're up against like at the end of the day, it's the competition that drives us. And me, when I don't win, or I could take second, or I take 32nd, or I take 14th, or I take 9th, like it's like pouring gasoline on a damn fire. And I understand what these guys are, what kind of effort they're putting into these events. And for me, it boils down to work ethic. And I'll never pretend I have more talent than any of you guys, but hopefully, I'm putting in the work, and I'm keeping my eyes open, my ears open, and always looking for that one little thing that's going to get me something.
Well, that's like, we've had a little partnership on some baits this summer, and we got some for this winter project that I reached out and
We've been
And-
talking arts and crafts. Yeah.
and we've been playing arts and crafts and like the one there isn't such a thing of it at all there, and then the one we're working on, I've only seen one other one, and it's not what I would expect out of it. So
Right.
yeah, we got some projects.
Well, when you called me that day, I'm like, huh. And it's interesting playing with the weight and like figuring out. I think we maybe got a little tweaking to do to get. To me, that's going to be a very niche deal when we get it right. But I feel like that's like that niche deal where when it's going, it's going. And I guess not to get into it too much, but to me, something that's a little bit overlooked in Minnesota is shiners. And we can leave it right there, or we can take a walk in the park with that, Tim. But I guess if we need to cut that even, I'll cut it. But you kind of like got my mind going a little bit with that. And to me, that's quite an overlooked deal that you seem to have a little bit figured out.
Well, it's just a different forage and different spots, and I mean, obviously there's certain times, certain weather that certain baits work a little bit better, but then you try to combine a couple that aren't out there, and that's what my theory was when I was like, well, I don't really like throwing this bait, but I like throwing this bait. And so what happens if we combine the two?
What if these two have a kid? What does that kid look like?
Pretty cool kid, I think.
Pretty cool kid, if I don't say so myself.
Pretty cool or pretty ugly.
But
Go
a
either
shiner,
way.
right? You've got golden shiners. You've got spot tail shiners. You've got
Oh, I love spot tail shiners.
God, if you could-
spot tail.
Oh,
Yeah.
you go to Leech and
Yeah, you could
you
figure
go to
out.
Leech and Red and just smack the walleyes. That's like my new addiction.
Oh, people just love them spot tails, and Alex too. I
The,
mean, same thing.
I mean, for the last, I don't know, few years, for a while, ever since Reggie's moved up to the Leech area, and we've been going up to his compound, and man, we've had a real nice time up there just catching walleyes and
I got a rain
and
check at that compound. Yeah.
it is it's a real nice place, and I mean, we've had tannerite parties, and we had one
Tannerite's fun.
tannerite party that they heard 6 miles away at the one resort. So, but yeah, we the walleye fishing up there with spot tails in the spring is just absolutely just my new thing.
Well, you got me thinking with that because you go to Florida and shiners are like, it's like throwing a wacky Senko for the first time at a bass that never seen one. Like, they love shiners down in Florida.
Oh, they do.
And then shiners get big, and you go to like Spirit Lake in Iowa, they got big golden shiners in there, and that they eat big. Yeah,
They eat 'em.
shiners. Yeah, shiners.
But the even well, if you think about it, back in the day before Minnesota, the DNR cut the importation of the shiners. You used to be able to get 5-6 inch golden shiners to fish with in the winter time, indoor spring. But even back in the day, like,
Makes a fucking sucker look like a can of spam. If you don't
back in the day,
mind me
we
saying that.
Roush and I, we'd go catch them in this creek, these great big creek chubs, and we'd put them things out on under a bobber, one of the big orange and white pencil bobbers that's like a foot long.
Yep.
Throw them out there, and oh man, did you catch big northerns and walleyes on that? It was just
believe it.
amazing. But yeah, I mean, the spot tail shiners, or not the spot tail, but the golden ones, now all are caught, but you can't get those ones imported up from down south.
Sure.
But those big ones back in the day, those caught some fish, and those were a real nice time catching. But yeah, I mean, so you think about it, that's one of the deals. And growing up as a kid, you'd always watch them balloon fishing down on Okeechobee with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's someday I'm going to go down there and I want to go balloon.
Like, oh, let me get your bobber ready.
Got him.
It's ready.
So yeah, but the spot tails are, I mean, just the whole shiner and deal is, but there's like, think about it, rocks, there's shiners like rocks, and there's certain lakes, especially up around that Chisago type area, that there's some rock piles that they definitely like a big shiner looking bait.
Well, I feel like we put our biology bracelets on, but let's put our biology hats on and let's dig into shiner movements a little bit. Like, you got your shad spawn, you got like Cisco's and smelt that are fucking vampires. You know, they don't like the sun. You've got perch that just seem like little crackheads on. Seem to use like grass and grass edges, and you know, kind of hang out that way. They're a little less pelagic. You got bluegills. You got crawfish. What the fuck does a shiner do when it's sunny versus cloudy? Because like a shad is kind of opposite of a smelt and a Cisco. Less vampirish. They ball up more like when it's sunny versus like a smelt and a Cisco balls up more seems to be when it's cloudy. So like,
Shiners,
I know that, but I don't know shit about fuck when it comes to shiners. And why is that? Because there's shiners up here, but they're not shad.
I think they're just more, they don't really group up. I mean, you sit in a spear house.
Mm-hmm.
I love spearing, and
I'd love to try that sometime.
and I sit there, you know, for a long time over the years, and it's but when you see them swim through the hole, the shiners are, you know, maybe in a little group of just a couple, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10. But they don't get the bait balls of like tulibies or not tulibies, smelt. You know, you don't get the big balls of them.
Well, when it's ice, there's not a lot of light penetration, so that makes me wonder if they're more like shad, like where if it's sunny they ball up more. Because in the ice, I don't know if it ever gets sunny if you're ice fishing.
Oh yeah,
It
Like
can,
form.
yeah. It depends on
If
how
there's
clear
no
the
snow.
ice is.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
If it's cloudy ice, then it's different. Yeah.
But like a shiner bite, it seems like there's a post spawn like end of June window, like a June window where there's a shiner deal, like a spring deal, and like a fall deal.
Yeah.
And I guess, is there any more to it than that? Is there a shiner pattern besides spring and fall from your experience, I guess?
I'm sure they eat them.
Well, I guess smallies on leech, I feel like that's probably a year-round deal. Or smallies on Pokegama, or, smallies on Mille Lacs. I'm sure they'll probably won't say no to a shiner, but, like, if we're talking Minnetonka, if we're talking,
About
a
that.
lake like that.
Think about that, though, when in the springtime, leech is now the up-and-coming smallmouth juice.
It is.
And think of how big those smallies are getting. Where do you think all those red tails come from? They're coming from leech. They're coming from red.
Chubs?
No, the spot tails.
Oh, I thought you said red tail.
Sorry, not red tail. But I was thinking.
Made me think of a chub.
Well, the
Chubs.
red tails make me think of Ida, but when I was fishing out there, but the spot tails, I mean, leech is loaded with them.
Sure.
You can't tell me that the smallies and the largies ain't eating them spot tails.
I guarantee they are. I just don't know how big them spot tails get and how big them fish get from them spot tails. Like, because you got,
they're just like a fathead. I mean,
No, they're bigger than that.
are they?
but you've got
3-4 inches.
Mille Lacs, you've got rusty crayfish. That's probably what's built that smallmouth population in general, right? But the cap
And the
on
perch. The perch too, though.
they've come up recently, I think. The perch have come up more recently, but you're not seeing the same maximum caliber fish there as you would, say, a Cisco lake.
Well,
That Cisco is a very protein-rich food, and those smallmouth in the Great Lakes or what have you, with the more protein-rich source food, like a smelt would maybe be the closest thing to it. And I don't know how big a shiner gets, but I don't know how many shiners you got to eat to equal a Cisco fish, but like a 7+ pound class fish doesn't really exist in Mille Lacs. You don't hear about them very often, you know what I mean? Versus Sturgeon Bay, you got 8+ pounders, and they're pretty common. To me, that comes down to like crawfish builds.
What about
3 to
gobies?
4 pound fish, like in magnitudes. Look at vermilion, you know.
What do you think about gobies?
I don't know enough about gobies, but I think they are a protein-rich, easy to digest food. Where like I've watched things, and like what I've learned about it is those smallmouth will eat crawfish for a certain portion of their life, right? Till they're like 4 pounds, and then if there's Cisco's or something in the lake, once they get to a certain age, they'll switch to like smelt or Cisco or that more, because it's easier to digest. And I think about, your body's starting to wear down. So them crawfish, yeah, like they're good when your body's young and healthy and you're Walker Krampitz at 19, but, you start to age and stuff, and all of a sudden the crawfish, you're puking them up. And it's funny because Seth was telling me, like, he didn't think that smallmouth ate gobies out west because he never saw them puked up in his live well. He always saw crawfish. And I had another guy I was talking to who said
they just digest out better.
That it's not that they don't eat gobies, it's that they digest out better because it's a softer, just more easy to digest food. And that made a lot of sense to me, I guess. But I don't even know where we were going with this. This is quite the tangent.
He got on to shiners and
shiners.
They act
Well,
like,
I mean, you think, I know, but the like Tulibies and stuff with that oil and that fatty, more oil to them. Like when I'm spearing, there's where I go, certain special spot in my place that I'm not saying on here.
I will never ask you.
But I have a special spot that I've been going a long time with a couple of my buddies and their dads and stuff, and man, the pike are just. I would definitely eat a northern that are eating on those things, hands down, better than any walleye ever. Because
Grass-fed beef.
it is.
it's kind of like
those big ones are in there eating those things, and
it's kind of like freshwater shrimp lakes too, for like
Perch.
Yeah, the perch, different,
Yum, yum.
whole different breed. Yeah, compared to our mudfish,
right.
It's,
But there's big shiners like some of the lakes back home. You'll catch them fishing panfish.
Yeah.
They're 8-inch shiners.
Well, you guys maybe noticed that big the rainbow trout Huddleston I had over there. Like, I'm determined there's a lake with rainbow trout within 3 hours of here.
it probably is, yeah.
and there's guaranteed there's big ones in there, but I've never put my boat in with like a rainbow trout bait. But I'm curious. Like
You don't
I've
need
never,
to have a rainbow trout.
No, you could probably just throw a white mag draft around. Or something
You can throw that rainbow trout anywhere.
I believe that, but
Yeah.
I've never fished a lake where they eat rainbow trout. Like that to me is like a Cisco scenario where trout's a very oily, soft kind of fish that way. But I do have to pee. We had a walkie-talkie.
Her?
Oh yeah, he's
A
got
walkie-talkie?
A walkie-talkie.
Oh,
I
see.
mean, her family's been great to me. They've been
okay. So this sounds more
They're-
like a girlfriend. than a
No,
stalker.
no, they're just super supportive. Like they've been at, I think, almost every Champions Tour event.
You have a family of stalkers? Like the
No,
whole
they
family?
I think so.
ain't
Damn.
stalkers. They're just very supportive. Like when I was down in Alabama, they were there too. But they were fishing. Like she was fishing in it. But no, they're a great family, and they've been supportive through the whole time. And they're like they call her my second mom, and then Jenna's my second mom, and yeah, there's a whole group.
Walker's my son.
Yeah, I got like I belong to like 6 different families pretty much.
So who's a stalker though? Is it the daughter of this?
Yeah, it's the daughter.
Did she
She's
help
just
you?
obsessed with you?
She's huh?
Walker.
She
She's crazy about you.
no. I mean, we've just been friends for
Gotcha.
because she fished the high school too. So I mean, we
Well, Sergeant says like she's a stalker.
Did she help you when you were stung by the wasps?
everyone gives me a hard time. About
Did you
that.
not see the
that his
little
first-
Hamadou when he was on the video? And he's
Oh, the
like,
wasps.
Oh, the wasps! They tried to bite me.
You gotta have some fun during that stuff.
She practiced with you for that?
No, you can't.
Can't.
You gotta.
Did he call her in on
Nope. You gotta follow the rules.
Yeah. Got
Well,
follow-
she's. I mean, blowjobs is basically family, dude.
No.
I don't know. There's a lot of cuddle time, I think, somewhere. But yeah, walkie-talkie.
Friends. So I'm curious why we. Like,
Hey, you don't want me. you don't want me to go.
Walker's got an ace. He's got the ace.
cut. We're done. We're done.
Got an ace.
Mercy.
Teals folds.
He's out.
Hey. You got to pull the feather out Kenny Loggins' hat once in a while. You got to know when to fold them.
He's down for the
I
count.
fold. I do not call. I fold.
Yeah.
Fire away.
Yeah. Okay, stalkers, like, it just makes me think of, like,
Timmy had a stalker.
the shit he's seen. The shit he's seen.
Oh yeah.
The shit,
Yeah.
like, on it. I want to hear, like, what is the funniest shit you've ever seen as a cop? 26 years. Like, you've seen some shit. What is the most hilarious thing you've ever seen? Like, mind-blowing. Like, what the fuck are these people doing?
I mean, there's just so many over the years. I mean, we'd be here for 4 more hours just talking about stories. Probably till tomorrow sometime.
We
but-
could do a whole season on that.
I mean, some of the stuff, like when I call him and he tells me what happened that night, is like, what in the world? Like, people live in this town like that? Like,
Well,
ugh.
you shot. Well, you told me about that story where
So in a couple of years ago, I was involved in the shooting in town where my partner was shot, and it was a unfortunate event, and I'm glad that Eric's still here and love him to death, and we talk quite often, and he was one of my partners, and I field trained him, and we had a plan for him moving forward. You know, he was doing all the right stuff, and it just so happened to be that night that we had a great group of guys working, and shit just sort of went sideways, and it was probably obviously the worst night of my life of working as a cop, and you know, to have your partner get shot, and I blame myself to this day, and it's been a really tough go over the last few years. Like, I didn't want to be in the car. You don't go sleeping, and you're trying to be there for the family. He's got 2 small daughters. I mean, it's just it was really tough. And to be in that situation, it just it's like you just got to deal with it at the moment and work your way through it. It's sort of like fishing, and sometimes you just got to work your way through stuff. But it was a life-changing event, and I'm glad that we just sort of worked through it, and we're still here. But yeah, it was an unfortunate event. So, but I've had a couple of them. Another event that was similar to that years ago, and a couple people were killed, and that's was traumatic as well, and I fought through that over the last 15, 16 years, but that's why I do what I do, and it is I just try to be there to continue to help people. I mean, we can talk. Like I said, I've had numerous events and where you could be sitting and have a little newborn that passes away, and you're sitting in the ambulance and you're looking at them, and it's like, did I just see him breathe? Did I just see him breathe again? Like, you sure you're alive? You're sure you're not alive? But
Jesus.
So I mean, you have stuff like that, and then you have the funny stories where you pull into a parking lot and people are having sex, or you have I mean, back in the day, I worked at St. John's before I became a cop. I was a security guy at St. John's,
Right up the road.
Right up at the road,
Collegeville, Minnesota.
So I mean, you had
You saw some shit.
the bennies up there, and then you'd have them in. You have the freshman and sophomore dorms, and they can't have the gals after a certain time, so then you'd have to kick them out, and you could just walk down the hall and like, all right, there's one in here, there's one in here, there's one in here. You knock on the door and be like, all right, we know what you guys were doing in here, obviously, but
how many people do you think you've cock-blocked or caught in the act, like? As a cop, how many people do you have to catch having sex, like, over your career span? Like, golly, this is really not good for the recruitment department right now, but...
Oh, it's been a lot. I mean,
Like hundreds?
Hundreds, especially at St. John's. I mean, it was like nightly. But, I mean...
How do you handle that? Like, we can hear you banging in there.
You just like keep knocking until they answer the door there, but I mean,
you don't like. Well, let's let him finish.
No,
like
because
the LAPD.
Well, we'll give him 2 more minutes. I bet he finishes well before then.
You're not like just like the Kool-Aid man coming through the door, no?
No, not there. But they had like the fathers would be their RAs that were on the floor, so they'd be with you.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
And so you got
you got a fucking priest with you.
Yeah, they're like, all right.
Oh
so
shit.
there wasn't no messing around with that. So I was like, all right, it's time to go.
Can you imagine like a cop and a priest show up at your door, like catch you banging and kick you out?
Oh yeah,
That'd be bad.
yeah. And then they're on a Catholic campus,
Right,
like, oh boy. But yeah,
What's
I mean,
the priest like? I think you're going to hell, but you might, he might forgive you. What were the priests? How was that dynamic? Because there's a lot of controversy in that alone, and we don't need to get into that. But
it was, I mean,
there's a lot of nice priests out there. Just
there
before
is,
I clarify,
and that was a great learning experience. I mean, just in the beginning of my career, I was fresh out of school, and even the guys I worked out there with, and they're still working out there. Some of them, I mean, they're still there, and it was a great place to work actually back then. And it was
my dad worked there. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just starting there was great, but ultimately I moved on, and it was that wasn't what I went to school for, but it got me by and used it as a learning experience. So I mean, it was a good time. But yeah, I mean, for anything from those stories to, I mean, I've been canine officer throughout for a while. I was on SWAT team for a while. I was on sniper for a while. I mean, it's I've done a little bit of everything over the 26 years. So
Been around the block.
Sniper?
sniper.
Cool.
So
Cool.
yeah,
What is that like?
well, there was a few times that it was you could have ended it on somebody right there. I mean.
Yeah.
It's just, but you're ultimately looking out for your guys that you're overseeing. You're the guy that's protecting those guys, and I guess when it comes to being clutch, that's where I like to be. Same as like the night of the Matson deal, or I've got that sticker on my boat. I've got, it's just trying to be there for. It's always been is trying to be there. I mean, for Walker, helping him out, Noah helping him out, and that's just the way I'm wired, is trying to help. And
that's why you're a good cop. And I think making a little connection with fishing there, like them high stress, them high pressure situations, and being able to maintain composure, and you're put in a lot of situations where you don't have a lot of time to make a decision, but you have to make the right one. And I think about fishing, and like
you're in them situations.
You're in them situations minus that life-threatening maybe aspect to it, right? And I think it's not why you're a good fisherman, but it certainly can't hurt.
Well, it definitely makes you process the way you process the information and process stuff. And I mean, because you always got to be thinking on your feet and thinking through things as you're working on calls. It's like, dealing with these people, are they going to pull a knife? Are they going to pull a gun? Are they going to walk out in front of the car? Are they going to fight with me? Or they, so you're always processing the information and trying to make sure that you get it all.
So to me, there's a lot of misconception now in the world about cops, and I guess the pressure involved with a lot of those situations. And I guess, what is the biggest misconception that you think people have about the job? And I think there's just this big conception that there's a big power trip with it, or something like that. And I guess to me, I wish there was more people like you talking out there, educating people, and like, I feel like a lot of people think they know what it is, and like you're anti-cop folk or whatever, but I feel like they don't have a fucking clue.
Yeah, I mean,
including myself, like, to be clear.
I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's we're out there trying to help them when they're having their worst moment in their life, no matter what it is. It could be something simple that you and I would think is simple, but they're having that moment of a crisis that could be the worst thing in their life right then and there, that you're there to help them. And no matter what the time, if it's, they have a flat tire, to their kid's not breathing, to whatever that happens to be the crises at that moment, that you're there to help. It isn't a power trip. It isn't, some of this stuff is like, you can try to explain to them, like, I really didn't come here to argue with you, or I really didn't want to do this, but they'll continue to argue or be anti-police, and it's like, really? I mean, we were called here for a reason. I just didn't randomly show up, or trying to just trying to be there is, I think, a lot of the reason. And people say that there's all these bad cops out there right now, and in reality, there isn't. I mean, you look at any profession, and I mean, you could have an NFL football player. Look at what's his name, Hernandez or whatever, that played that was killing people, right? And you got doctors that are not doing their job right, and people are dying, or you got priests that are doing things. I mean, you have all this stuff, but it's like
in every profession.
There's good and bad everywhere. There's always good
in fishing, in hockey, every profession. To your point, Tim.
Like, I've met some people in the fishing industry that are like, "Oh, yeah, this is how you are." It's
sketchy.
Like, you look at them differently.
Like, and then there's like I have a couple buddies that have retired out of law enforcement because of events that they've been in. And, I sort of blame myself for that too. That I got him in the one specific one, I got him into that and stuff. So, and ultimately he's out and he's now where he wants to be in a career path and stuff. So it's going good for him. But, ultimately, trying to make those choices, or I guess,
you can't blame yourself for everything though, man, and you can only do so much. I know you wear your heart on your sleeve and you give the shirt off your back for anybody, but
I'll tell you, I'll usually insert my foot in my mouth, but I'm going to tell you how I feel no matter what. And like I said, sometimes that gets me in trouble, but I'll either ask or I'll tell you what I think, and I won't usually hold back. So
right. Well, I was always curious, and there's a big controversy about this, and like with quotas and police departments, right? There's a lot of people who say like, oh yeah, they're giving more tickets at the end of the month, or whatever like that. Like, how do police departments look at like the financial aspect? Because obviously, if you don't write tickets, like there has to be some sort of that, but it's not like I don't think you guys are going out and trying to write tickets either.
They give me tickets no matter what time of the year.
Well, we know how Walker feels.
Month or week. Yeah, they don't.
Walker's had a few run-ins, but it wasn't with me. But
son, it's called cruise control, and the speed limit's 30.
I learned my lesson on that.
But yeah, going back to the quota deal, there's no such thing. And here's another.
Sure.
And even if there was, it doesn't go to that department because it gets split up like three ways. It goes to the city, it goes to the county, it goes to the prosecutor, it goes to the state. So it's split up. So there isn't even any money involved.
Sure.
But then you have my perspective is like, great, now I got some guy that wants to go to court and argue this $69 speeding ticket, and it's my day off and I want to go blackfish tournament or something, and I got to be in court.
Yeah, what the hell?
Like, do you think I really want to be at court right now? And obviously I will arrest them with the best of them, and I have over the years. However,
nice rhyme.
And I will deal with it as need be. But I'd rather be doing other stuff than sitting in court.
Well, and then you've had this evolution of like body cams and like stuff like that, and I see both sides to that, and I'm really not a person who should have an opinion on it. So I don't have an opinion on it, but I guess to me, I see that how there's benefit, but I also see how it can be bad too.
So we just got them a little over a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I've been fishing, so I haven't really played around a whole lot. But we just got them recently, and I was against them. And I think going against them, or in my opinion, it takes away from the credibility of the officer. And
how so, though?
Well, because they're like, well, we got to watch the cameras, and prior to the cameras, you'd write your report or have your squad video or whatever, and then that's what you would run off of in your testimony. Well, now they want it didn't happen or whatever you would say unless it's on camera. So then it second guesses what's being said, and not everything is going to be caught on camera. I mean, if I'm looking at it's Cole, right, and something's happening over here, my camera ain't getting over there. So it
Sure.
I mean, well, it didn't happen. It wasn't on camera.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And so you were against them. Are you still? Like, now that you've been messing with them? And I don't know shit about fuck when it comes to body cams.
I'm sure that, like I said, I'm new to them. However, at some point it'll probably save your ass on something, the way the world's going, because somebody will bitch about something and whatnot, and you'll be like, no, that isn't the way it is. But it's usually you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent type of deal.
Yeah. That's crazy. And I guess, like, how are you guys handling, like, you know, let's say Walker's got 3 joints on him and now weed's legal. And that to me seems like a whole new gray area.
Well, Walker ain't 21, so that'd be illegal for Walker to have. That's a pretty easy answer.
Your name's not Snoop Dogg. You're not 21. You may not pass go. You may not collect $200.
That whole theory, it's like, really?
So, like,
you can have 2 pounds. It's like,
it's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, but it grows out of the ground. Blah, 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 blah. But my question was more so like how the law's being handled, because it seems like some shit got passed before there was a foundation built like behind it.
I think they're still trying to figure it out from
Sure.
my perspective. I mean, they're like trying to figure out how the plants, or how you can have the plants and how you can grow the plants.
But like, how is your department like directed to handle that right now? Like, out of just pure curiosity, because we've never seen that before in the state of Minnesota.
Well, I mean, you just follow the state guidelines and the state law. I mean, big thing is the age
Sure.
and the amount. So, I mean, that's just...
And you can't drive with it.
Well, I mean, there's people that drive all the time that are doing it. It's just a matter of how do you prove that? I mean,
They're not speeding, they're baked.
Even before, you know, that even before they made it legal, you had people that driving that were under the influence of it. But then you have to go through the whole process of why are they under the influence, and you got to prove it that they were under the influence. So you have to go through all the field sobriety tests and ask all the right questions.
Because you can't breathalyze them.
You can't breathalyze, and the stuff's obviously in your system if you do a blood or urine test. So I mean,
but it is for like months with that shit,
right?
You know,
so but you gotta prove through the questioning and your tests that you do and why that person would be under the, you know, and prove it. And I mean, that's ultimately where a video comes into a big play, being helpful and stuff. But yeah,
interesting. Dude, for me, a cop, like, and I know a cop in Hutchinson who's a hell of an angler. His name's Tyler Dino, and he fishes with Chapman. He's one of the most underrated anglers, I think, in the state. But, like, talking to him and then Jeremiah Hine, Aaron Barrows, some of the Stearns County sheriffs, and just it doesn't seem like it, but when you start to think about it, it's like you literally get to see the worst of the worst every day. Like, can you imagine that? Like, that's a hard thing to imagine having to process in your brain the rest of your life. And I guess that to me is like, I don't think I appreciated cops until I, you know, became a little bit older and kind of understood that, like, what you guys have to see on a daily basis is not for everybody. And I have a lot of respect for being able to just get up the next morning and go do your job again, because I think it'd be hard for me.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing. I mean, one of the calls I was on back in the day, there was 4 of us there, and I'm the last one standing. The other 3 are no longer in law enforcement. And the other thing going along with it, the thing that helps is, you know, obviously, within the last couple of years, with the struggles, I would say, that I've went through, I was fortunate enough to get a dog through Soldiers 6, which is an organization that helps place dogs with vets and police officers and firemen and everything. And so I have a dog that was graciously donated by a lady and whatnot. So I get to spend time with her, and if I'm having a bad night at work, I'll just stop at home. You know, it's my personal service dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so she doesn't work with me, but working in town, I can stop at home whenever. And so if I'm having a bad night, I just stop home and go pet her and hang out with her for a little bit and then go back to work or whatever. So, I mean, that's been helpful. And I know that, like, Soldier 6 just donated a dog to Sartell Police Department, which is not too far from here. And it's going to be used as a therapy dog for different calls and situations, and hang out at the office and stuff. So, I mean, that's a great organization and helping a lot of the guys and gals that are with their moving forward with the stuff that they deal with.
Who doesn't love petting a dog, and who doesn't feel better after petting a puppy or dog or something like?
You need a dog here.
Dude, if
A podcast dog.
I know, dude, and I need a cat because they shit in a box and they take care of themselves. Like, that's the problem. I'm gone too much to take care of a dog. Like, I hardly take care of myself. Like,
I could see you being a cat man, though.
hey, man,
Meow.
it's a low maintenance pet. It's a low maintenance pet. That's all I have to say about that. But I have a plot twist for tonight that, like, I'm curious, Tim, if you know some shit I don't. I think there's a few scary things in this world. One, the Russian mafia, to me, is a scary thought. Two, the Waseca Mafia has proven to be deadly and dangerous over the past season. But I think what is like this secret thing that is kind of weird and trippy and scary is the Mexican drug cartel, to be honest with you. And just you talking made me think of my old Triton rep, who's now the Camus rep, Mike Kennart. He's got a farm down in Iowa and a bunch of land, some private farm ponds and whatnot. And, you know, he doesn't live there much. Like, he's got a couple places, but all of a sudden, like on trail cams and stuff, he sees a couple of guys walking with AK-47s on his trail cams on his land in Iowa. AK-47s, right? Like, and he's like, what the hell? So he calls it in, and they're like, do not go on your property, you know, all this stuff. And it turns out the Mexican drug cartel was living off his land, living in like these dugout burrowed, like living in a hole off of Bush Light and like Fritos for like 6 to 9 months, pulling the water from his farm pond to grow
Their little stash.
their stash. Yeah, and they were living there for like 6 to 8 months, like AK-47s, Bush Light, and fucking Fritos. Like, they were living off just shit, living in a hole in the middle of Iowa. This is like Mexican drug cartel members, and I've had
This happens everywhere, though.
that's the crazy thing to me. That's, I mean, and like, you've got that in Iowa, you've got that in California, you've got that like little cartel ops like all around the country. And fuck, I might die after this podcast, but I don't care. Like, whatever. That's wild to me. I was curious, like, and fuck, maybe we shouldn't even be talking about it. You don't fuck with the cartel, like, god damn it. But
I mean, it's
what do you know about the Mexican drug cartel? And like, to me, they're involved like nationwide. They're in it.
Oh, they're definitely in it. I mean,
They lay low.
They have their operations. They know, you know, that they have different routes, and then if something gets picked up, then they go a different route, or they use different people. I mean, there's just they're an organized crime. I mean, it is definitely it is a big deal, and there is definitely more drugs out there that people more than really people really know. I mean, even in the smaller towns and stuff, and it's definitely an issue. And for the guys and gals that are out there that are fighting that, it's in the certain specialty areas. And obviously, I was on the SWAT team for a while, so there's definitely out there, and it's definitely an issue, and it's
prevalent.
Yeah, it's there more than you think.
Totally. And I think about if I'm a cop, right? And like
that stuff.
All of a sudden a cartel gets a hold of you and they threaten your family, right? If you don't let this pallet of cocaine pass through at this time, this night, on this day of this week. Like, how as a cop are in that situation, to me, like, I'm like, fuck yeah, cocaine. I love cocaine. Don't kill my family. Like, God damn it. Like, all of a sudden, like, I don't know how when your family's on, like, that's how powerful the Mexican drug cartel is. You know what I mean? Like, if you're, and I think about these, we had a cop die in Cold Spring, right? And I don't know shit about what happened, but like, there was a pallet of cocaine found in the Golden Plum factory, like, within a year before that. And it's like, you just start to like wonder about what goes down behind the scenes that we maybe never even know about. You know what I mean?
There's a lot.
There is.
There's a lot.
It's so like great. It's a trippy thought.
I have a saying that if people knew what happened after dark, that they wouldn't come out anymore. So
It's bad.
But
Like,
I mean,
even by my house too, like, there was little, I don't know, I wouldn't call it like cartel, but there's something going on down there for sure. I mean, there ain't really
it's
much
anywhere.
you can do about it, you know. The cartel's really, I mean, a big deal. Like any drug operations, something that's hard to stop.
Well, it's like if you're a cop and like you got your sergeant level, but let's say like a level or two under you, like you're a local cop and you get put in that situation. It's like, if you're a sergeant and you find out about it, how do you handle it? You don't want the guy's family. Like, there's so much. Like, we are such pussies.
oh, you go get them. You don't fuck with the cop's family. We go get them.
Yeah, okay.
Later.
I like that. There's a lot of them, though.
I'm a big guy. Bring it.
I wouldn't fuck with you ever, Tim.
So
If there's one person I never want to fuck with, it's the mob boss of the Waseca Mafia. So, like, that Mexican drug cartel ain't met Big Timmy Schroeder. That's what I got to say.
come on, I like to go to Mexico all the time. So
All inclusive, baby. 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila.
I'm not a tequila guy. Though.
I'm not either. You can thank Dane for that. We don't call him Tequila Dane for nothing. He was a wild man.
Oh, as I say, I thought he sort of laid off now. Maybe that was a previous.
He's off the hooch now, yeah. But back in the day, Dane was the type of guy where we would go to the bar and he would get a tray of tequila shots. A tray.
Well, maybe not tequila, but I'd be right there with some stuff, yeah.
My 21st birthday, he carried me out of the bar. I don't know how I was alive. I don't, like, woke up on the front porch. It was magical. It was awful. I don't do tequila either, I guess is what I'm trying to say after that night.
Nah, I'm not much.
Modelo's, that's what you are.
Nope.
Dos Equis? Corona?
Victoria.
Never had it. Gloria.
Victoria.
Gloria.
Maybe Dos Equis, Tecate Light, but yeah.
You're a big summer shandy guy.
Yeah.
I fucked that up, didn't I? Well, you said you got this hell of a deal at the liquor store.
Well, actually, so Summer Shandy is I've toured the plant like 3 times and went out there, and it's sort of my to-go-to deal besides Miller Lite. But yeah, the Summer Shandy is always good. So it always used to be they'd start at about April, and then they would end about right around Labor Day. They'd take it off the shelf, and then they'd bring in Oktoberfest and so on.
Sure.
So now, this year they started it in January, so it was here sooner. But then it sort of was like, wasn't as good for some reason in January. But now this year, it's running later in the year. So now we're almost October. So we're a month after. So it's great. But the gal called the other day and was like, "Hey, we're putting this on sale." I'm like, "I'll be right."
They call you.
Oh yeah. They called my wife and said, "Hey," they're like, "You want to let Tim know that Summer Shandy's going on sale?" Well, then, so I went and got some I got a grouse hunting trip coming up.
You got to get him to call you the Godfather from now on.
So then I'm
We
like,
just want to let the Godfather know that we got the summer shandy back in stock.
pretty much. And then it was like, okay, so we went and bought some. And then my buddy from Faribault texted me last night. He's like, sends me a picture. It's like $7.98 a 12-pack. I'm like, He's like, you want me to get you a pallet? I'm like, hold on to that thought.
I'll split a pallet with you.
But then I was like, well, while I was there, then I'm like, hey, this bottle is on sale up in Total Wine in Burnsville for like 18 something.
Hey guys, Ross, owner here at Waypoint Angler Supply. We're super excited to have opened a premier fishing store here right on the shores of Lake Minnetonka. I've fished here all my life, fished a bunch of the local tournaments, and just totally fell in love with this lake in particular. It's always been a dream of mine to have a tackle store on the lake, and we're super lucky to be on Lake Minnetonka here. We've got certain offerings here that you really can't find anywhere else in the state, and a lot of it you can't find nationally. We hope you're as excited as we are that we're going to be offering boat ramp delivery right here on the lake to Spring Park, Maxwell, and North Arm ramps. To order tackle for boat ramp delivery, all you have to do is give us a call here at the store or head to our website, and we're going to meet you at one of our 3 meeting points. Swing on into the shop here on Lake Minnetonka. Come see us. We love to talk fishing. We love to get feedback. We'll do anything we can so that you guys can have the most success out on the water.
This podcast is brought to you by my brother from another mother, my tournament partner, and the best rod builder north of the equator that still has 20/20 vision, Waseca Fishing and Customs, specializing in custom fishing rods. Your custom rod, the way you want it, because it has to be your rod. However, he has a wide variety to choose from, including his all-new for 2023 custom chicken rod. If you throw the big fluff, the hairy Gary, the rotisserie dissery, the half-ounce Palomalu, the 3/4-ounce rooster biscuit, the lightener looking like D. Snyder, you're going to want to be throwing the Waseca Fishing Chicken Special Big Hair Jig Rod. Mr. Waseca spent a lot of time on this rod, and it has the perfect action to throw, hook, and land those fish that you maybe pulled the bait out from because the rod was too stiff, or had them spit it because your rod didn't have the backbone. Well, the new Chicken Special from Waseca Fishing and Customs has worked to solve both of those issues, along with superior balance and quality components. So head on over to his website, wasecafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. Pick this rod up before it's too late, because up here in the North Country, they about to be schooling.
Oh, we'll match the price. I'm like, well, I guess we'll take some of that too.
So you're like, nah, hold on, I gotta make sure they're cool with that. And you're like, yeah,
I
Burnsville will do $750.
I'm like, well, this was a different bottle. This is a hard bottle.
Pitting them
Like,
against
I'm
each
like,
other?
Well, so we got the. I'm like, let me get the shopping cart here.
You mind if I just back my truck up right to the doors? Or
She's like, "Do you going fishing again?" I'm like, "No, no, this is for the hunting trip." But I was telling her, like, when we were at Big Stone.
Yeah, you learned your lesson there for
So
sure.
Walker and I went out like the week before the week of the tournament. We went out there for 2 days and stayed overnight at the hotel, and the liquor store is just down the road from the hotel. So I'm like, well, I better go get a 12-pack. It was like 20 something for a 12-pack. I'm like, that is the most expensive 12-pack of summer shandy I've ever bought in my life. I'm like, that will never happen again.
we're not in Waseca anymore.
I'm like,
Jesus.
no. So when we went back to Big Stone, we came prepared.
Do you guys think any of the listeners noticed the sign that you made me behind us yet?
Well, I'm sure the
It's
guy
fucking beautiful.
that guy that made it, I'm guessing he will be looking for it someplace to see it. So he'll be watching and looking for it.
I'll be straight up, Mr. Sign Maker guy. Thank you. I love it. Does he have a name?
It's my captain. It's Chris Markison. So
Chris
he,
Markison. This one's for you, Chris Markison.
Yep. On the Mark Woodcraft, I believe, is what he's calling his Woodcraft. So
That's an intergalactic piece if I've ever seen one.
he made me a piece prior to this. It's I have my saying. Obviously, my boat's sort of black and green, and I like black and green. So here, with my shirt on, but he made me a piece prior to this that I have a saying. It's a real nice time, and then
You do have that saying. It's
And,
a real nice time.
and so I and then I say Schroeder Outdoors, all the hunting and fishing that I do. So he made me up a sign and with Schroeder Outdoors, and then it's a real nice time, and it had a fish on it and stuff. So and it turned out great, and it almost brought me to tears and stuff as well. And he said, "Hey, great or nice year 2023 fishing." And he's the one that approves my vacation time to get off so I can go fishing. So
Yeah.
and
Well, I didn't cry. I cried before the show, but
so it was nice. And then I was like, hey, I like putting a plug in for and doing stuff and having us up. So I was like, I'm gonna do something special for Teal. And obviously we have
means the world.
the little arts and crafts fair that we're into. So I was like, well, I'm gonna make him get this made up. And I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm going to at some point I'm going to do this podcast and would like to do a little project for him. And he knocked it out in a couple days. So
Dude, that's one of the coolest things anyone's ever brought me. Walker brought me $100 one time, but
He didn't like it.
that was
no, I was pissed.
I think that was for
bad.
staying on the twin bed, but
Yeah, like you never pay $100 for a cockroach motel over here, bud. Like
I'll
mi
give
casa su casa.
I'll give this 5-star
Yeah.
for sure.
5-star rating at the Teal's Galaxy.
No, but seriously, dude, thank you for the sign and like all your support, man. It's been fun, like doing arts and crafts and talking shit, and it means a lot having the Waseca Mafia in my corner, like.
Better watch out.
No, dude, they're in my corner. Like Waseca Mafia is in my corner. Like I'm way less scared now.
We'll see how that schedule for Champions Tour comes out next year, and we'll see how the Mafia goes.
You guys have.
If it's at the river, you will not see me.
You won't even go.
Nope.
Why? I need to know why.
2005, May, I believe it was a May Denny's. I was fishing with Ross Taylor, and he's one of my close buddies.
Yeah,
And,
Ron Mayer's buddy too.
So we were fishing, and I had this nice little 518 Ranger SVS all hopped up, and I just got it propped right, and the thing would haul the mail. It was fast.
A fast Ranger?
It was fast.
It
was like a 73. It was rocking.
Oh, that R73?
No, it was a 518 SVS,
73 mile an hour Ranger?
73 mile Ranger. I
Down current.
Down.
I don't care which way it was going. It was going up, but I just got it dialed up right, propped right, and man, we were doing really good in the Derby, and we had one more spot to get, and we were running up from towards the dam, or from the dam. We were about Chippewa flowage area, and there's a little bend in the road, or bend right there. Barge had just went through. We didn't know it. Was up the way, but the wakes were coming down. I hit a barge wake at like 73. I turned into it and I launched that Ranger, and we dropped it on its side. And I broke the kill cable on the motor. When I got ejected, I literally dropped it on my shoulder.
Threw you out?
Went for a swim, dropped it on the driver's side, launched it, dropped it on the driver's side. I hit the motor on the way out of the boat, snapped the cowling off the motor.
You hit the motor and snapped the cowling off.
So he went swimming.
Fuck.
And boat ended up on in the rocks on the shore. It ran for a little bit and then finally killed. It was in the rocks, so Ross is wearing a life jacket, one of them inflatable ones.
Yeah.
So you can't swim for shit.
His boat?
My boat.
Your boat.
Can't swim for shit when you have one of them on.
Okay.
Because it'll want to keep you turned up. But
Yep.
when you want to swim, go forward, it doesn't work. So I had to grab him. We're talking like 42-degree water temp. So I just dropped the boat basically on my shoulder, hit the motor on the way out, grab him, we make it over to the boat, push it out of the rocks, tried to start it. And I'm like, it won't start. Well, the kill switch was all janked. And then, so I held it up, got it to start, and we were freezing because the water's butt cold. Make it back to the pickle factory, and it was like, we looked in the boat, and I was like, all right, are the fish still there? We had a bag, like it was smallies. We were like, back then it was like 18 plus pounds probably, so we had a pretty good bag.
Yeah.
Look in the live well, and like, they're locked, closed. Half the fish are gone. Don't ask me where the hell they went. If they're in the boat, wherever it went, they were not in the boat. We had rods that were strapped down that left the boat. We had rods that weren't strapped down that stayed in the boat. We make it back to Pickle Factory. We threw the fish out on the way that were left. Get the boat loaded. And we get it on the trailer, and it was like the whole side of the boat was cracked, and you could stick your fingers through the side below the rub rail.
Was that from the rocks or just twisting on the...
From landing on it. That whole right side of the driver's side of the boat. So, and just prior...
And Timmy never showed up to the river again. Holy shit.
Never been back.
Wow.
Won't go back.
I've tried getting him to come back. He won't.
So, but yeah, almost died there. Should have died there.
Boats are dangerous. I've almost died in one.
Yep. And then 2 weeks later, then I wrecked a squad. So, yeah, it was a bad, really bad 2 weeks of my life.
It sounds like it. And I guess maybe to, I don't know where we're at for time, but like maybe to close this out, let's talk about you putting that squad car in the lake and how that fucking happened, because that's pretty cool. Or maybe Walker could tell it. I don't even know.
I don't know the story.
Walker,
You tried.
I know.
how old were you?
You tried to fish a bass tournament out of a police car.
He was like 3. Maybe
When was that?
June of 2005.
I was 2.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were.
Damn, you're young.
Yeah.
There was a
Fuck,
chase.
I feel
It was a
old.
chase, and I had the dog, and we were gonna go get in the chase and back up the guys, and I was pushing it a little hard, so I wanted to get him.
So this was a guy running
Yep.
from you.
From another guy, from some deputies. And
How
then
many times have you got to do that? Like chase guys down, like that run. How many guys are dumb enough to run?
Oh, plenty. I used to be a lot thinner, and I used to be able to chase them down pretty good even on the foot. But now I'm a little smarter. But yeah, I blew a tire, spun out, crashed it, sent it out in the lake. So
He James Bonded you.
yeah, it wasn't good.
Can you imagine Timmy chasing you on foot?
Fuck.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Scary to think about.
Yeah.
I've done pretty good up until, well, there's been a couple kids like in the last year or two that I didn't catch, but they ended up being caught. It was just I chased them to someone else that was a little bit faster,
I like it.
smarter.
See, on foot, I would run as a kid, but in a vehicle,
Oh,
fuck no.
I'd give you a good run.
You'd go.
I'd give you a good run.
yeah. No, it's been a good run. We've had, like I said, between fishing and work, and my partners have been really good and they know that my fishing means a lot, and they let me get out. So I've been very appreciative of all of them.
Absolutely. So you blew a flat and put it in the lake. The whole car.
Oh yeah.
Was it shallow enough, like where you get out? Like you watch movies where people like jump their car off a bridge, and it's like, well, do you keep the windows down? Do you keep the windows up? And then, like,
No, this
what's
was-
the best way to like
This was-
survive a car going in the water?
It was about window deep, and
Okay.
it went from the tires squealing to nothing to swoosh.
Where's my jigworm rod?
Yeah, I'm like, I wonder if. So that
What was that phone call like?
well, that
Did
wasn't
your
very.
phone even work?
That was one of those calls. I call one of my buddies. He's the captain at the time. I'm like, hey, I just stuck the squad in the lake, and he's like, oh. And he gets there, and he's like, you've had a really rough 2 weeks, because like I said, I wrecked a boat 2 weeks prior.
Oh man.
So we had a little conversation about my life choices and how things in my life were going at the time. So
Well, this was a while ago.
it was a while ago.
And you
then-
haven't put a squad car in the lake since, so I'd say that talk went pretty good.
Yeah, I've dinged up a few cents. I've had to have Walker's dad fix a couple for me, but
Yeah, local auto body shop guy comes in handy.
He's
Yep.
fixed a lot of squads
Yeah,
and sheriff cars, everything.
yep. So
Is that called Krampitz Auto? What's it called?
He sold it now, but it was Dave's Body Shop.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know how the new guy is, but back in the day, Dave's Body Shop was the best place to take your vehicle in town.
For sure.
it still is. But yeah, we there were plenty of them that went there.
A lot of them.
How fast do the cop cars go nowadays?
Not as fast as they should, probably.
They're junk.
Fucking rice burners.
The those new Explorers, the best one ever was probably the Chevy Caprice with the Corvette engine, the LT1 Corvette engine.
The Bush era.
So those were pretty much those,
Yeah, we're going to get every cop in the country here. We got Corvette engines. I know the car doesn't look as good as it could, but we got big shit in there.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
probably the best. And then
You can call me W.
the next one, the Dodge Chargers were pretty good.
How are the Obama era vehicles? Like, we need to go a little bit greener. And, you know, the cars are a little too fast on the road. So, you know,
They're still
we
in that
decided to
stage.
federally imply a bunch of V6s.
Yeah, they're junk.
Still in there. You can't.
Still, our new squads are running V6s, and they're just not very good.
I think cops should bring the Buick back. It's one of the best riding vehicles of all time.
I don't like them. Them Chargers are fast.
Well, you must be a virgin because those were the comfiest back seats I'd ever seen in a vehicle as well. Buick Sabre. No, Timmy?
The 98 Regency Brougham.
Got it. Yeah. Timmy, no.
The old 98 Regency Brougham.
The Oldsmobiles.
Yep.
I have me an Oldsmobile Bravada. You know what a Bravada is?
If I've seen
It's a
picture, I
knockoff
would.
Chevy Blazer. That's an Oldsmobile.
Well, those were good, but my Mustang with the hatchback was always pretty good too.
My dad had a hatchback Mustang till my cousin drove it into a grocery store at 5 years old.
You could put gals in there. You could put deer in the back. It didn't matter.
Fit women, deer, all the stuff.
They were all back there. So
Dude, that's awesome. So the young calf beat the old bull this year. I guess next year you got like are you like I'm never gonna let that happen again, or are you like by golly?
we're just gonna see how things shake out.
Yeah.
You know, those to run with these guys and you guys like that this young crowd, and you could definitely gotta be pot committed. And like I said, trying to beat these guys to the lake, I'm like, I thought I was getting up early, and I was there like it would be Noah, Walker, Clayton Storing would all be at the lake before I would be there. I'm like the fourth one here. I'm like, and those guys, you know, the commitment that they have, and then also the electronics that they're using, and the dedication and stuff that they're putting in is definitely a big deal. And I'm good. I'm working on some of that. Like I said, I got some partnerships that we're working on, and we'll just sort of see what next year brings.
Big picture for the young SkyWalker. Oh my God. You ever call him that? Fucking SkyWalker?
Sky's the limit for that guy.
Your name's holy fuck. We got Obi, like you're SkyWalker, not like
Yep.
Skywalker.
He likes to shoot the sky carp too.
You seen
so-
Star Wars? You haven't seen.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Daddy did raise you right. I thought he might have, but so SkyWalker. What's the future look like for young SkyWalker? For young Skywalker, what is the future gonna bring for young SkyWalker here? Because he's 19 years old. He's got himself a Gilmore check on the Champions Tour, and you're about to leave for North Dakota. So I'm just wondering, what's the big plan in that head of yours for the next, you know, where's SkyWalker going?
I got
Is he
no
going to
idea.
the planet of Naboo to fight Darth Vader, or like, what are you doing?
I'm gonna see how this winter shakes out, and work till March, end of March, and see.
So what are you doing in North Dakota?
I'll be guiding perch and walleyes up on Devil's Lake.
The old perch guide.
He's gonna do good. He just bought himself a one of them
Snow bear.
snow bears, and he'll do good. If he's got an open day, he better be calling me up there for some fish. That's all I know.
So I mean, if that works out good, this winter, the next summer should be really fun, and
Me scoping perch out the snow bear all fucking winter.
Again, that's another guy that he worked during the winter, and then he's going to fish all summer and not have to work a 110-hour regular cop job.
We'll see about that. I got to see how this winter goes first. I got a loan out for that, so that needs to get focused on first before fishing at the moment. So
Welcome to the working crowd.
What's your long-term dream though, dude? Because you've proven you can hang. Like you can hang, you can fish, dude. And I guess we all have that dream of competing where we want to compete. And I guess like what's like the long-term dream? Do you want to fish the elites? You want to be?
Yeah, I mean, if I could afford to fish the opens,
Right.
eventually, I mean, I wouldn't mind trying it, but right now the future's probably just going to be trying to make a living off guiding and hopefully mix in some fishing too in the summer and go from there. I don't know. I mean, I think it's everyone's dream to be on the elites, or fish the opens and do well in them, but I think I need to focus on the summer tournaments around here and look at the MNBN trail a little more, and then the Champions Tour as well, and then some of the other bigger tournaments too mixed in there throughout the summer, and focus on them first before I do anything. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm in a fun fish.
Fuck yeah, Timmy.
Go to Leech.
Yeah.
I think we had plenty of fun this summer though. There's no way around that one.
No, we had a real nice time.
I mean, all summer we had a good time.
It's not, yeah, dude, it's what we live for, right? We live for that. And it's always kind of a weird time of year this time of year because it's like, it's really good fishing, but it's kind of also like there's this doom and gloom of winter coming, and I don't have this snow bear perch thing to look forward to.
No, you
right?
got to be
But-
killing geese right now. That's where you got to be at.
Well, we were talking a little bit before the show, and I think we'll close it out this way tonight because we got a little weird here at the end. But Tim said he thought he'd seen aliens a couple times, and I'm wondering if that was at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or it was definitely towards the end of your shift. But I am curious, like, do you guys believe in aliens?
I don't know. Hard to say.
Definitely.
I have no proof of it.
Sasquatches too.
I don't know about them Sam Squatches, but them aliens there's no way they're not real.
Oh,
You think them Sam Squatches are real too?
for sure.
Whoa.
Yeah, I could believe that.
Oh yeah, for
Why?
sure.
What's the Sam Squatch? Where you seen them Sam Squatches?
We just got an inside joke for up north. We sit in the woods in the middle of the night, and we'll be banging on trees and hooting and hollering, like trying to call Sasquatches in. So yeah, it's figure why not?
Summer shandy is key for Sam Squatch.
Yep,
hunting.
exactly.
Always gonna have the midnight 4-wheeler run in the middle of the woods.
Oh yeah.
Sasquatch hunting.
Sam Squatches. Them. I don't know if I believe in them things, but with how many stars are out there, I don't see how there ain't aliens.
Well, there's definitely ones. They're the ones that made your sign. They even made it in the galactic colors for you.
They did. They put contour lines in it. There's no way humans could do that.
Correct.
To your point. Also, like, I really don't know how you don't believe in aliens because I know the shit you're throwing is not earthborn fishing tackle technology. So don't you even start to fuck with me, boy. I know them aliens visited you and you know it. Like, but them stars out there, there's a lot of stars out there. Timmy, you'd spend a lot of time driving under them stars.
Yeah. There's been plenty of road trips, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you think about how hot the sun gets while Paul Roush is bitching about his sunburn.
Maybe
And like Like, you think about how radiating that sun is, like, and Paul Roush is just in the back of the boat, like, layering sunscreen, just bitching. And you look up at the stars at night when you're driving, and how many suns do you see out there? Those are all suns. And you think about how many planets are on our sun alone. There's they declassified Pluto as like not whatever, but there's like 6 of them bastards. There's like 6 planets or something. Like, how is that? Like,
maybe I have.
What are all them stars doing?
Actually, yes, I do believe in aliens.
Dude, I bet there's like...
Mom had a UFO hovering above her when she was like, I don't know, 16.
See?
I'm just wondering how many...
I'm dead serious. She told me about that. And then also on the river, I can't remember, on the St. Croix, there was... it was like 3 in the morning. We were fishing, or bow fishing a tournament. And the whole sky lit up, and there was like dots all the way across. I don't know what it was, but
26 years of working nights, you'll see some shit in the sky, I guarantee you.
Bow fishing too. Bow fishing's pretty wild.
And I guarantee it, dude. Dude, I wonder what... Okay, so we were talking about like a Mexican drug cartel. I wonder what like the space cartel looks like somewhere. Like, there's a space cartel.
I wonder what they're selling.
Asteroid dust.
Asteroid dust. They're snorting that asteroid dust out there. The kids. There's a real problem with them space kids and that asteroid dust, man.
And that whole Roush deal and the sunburn.
Yeah.
We had a day like that down in Okoboji Open one day. We were as red could be, and we're like, it was bad. We had to put like aloe on each other. It was so bad.
That had to be before I know Roush, because I think Roush is a hell of an angler. Love him to death, but I have never seen a man put more sunscreen on before a tournament at 7 a.m. than Paul Roush.
That would have been probably the reason why that happened, because since then, I mean, that was probably early 2000s or late 90s. But but yeah, it was bad.
And I'm convinced that Paul Roush convinced Glenn Walker that like sunburn was a real thing. So Glenn Walker he fear tactic Glenn Walker into being that way. Yeah, but anywho, well, boys, I know you guys had a long drive here, and
that wasn't long.
Timmy's like, you don't know shit. And we've got a century belt holder here, the king of jigworming in Minnesota, as far as I'm concerned. And then we've got the young calf who's the new SkyWalker on the block, minus the Princess Leia, unless it's a stalker, who's won himself a Gilmore check, and he's coming on the scene big time. He's got the fresh sun shirts on. He's got the fresh hat on. He's about to be guiding perch. It was an honor to have both of you. And I think... before we close this out, we have to give Noah a little bit of shit, because we've got the Waseca Mafia here, and Noah's not here, and I know he'd love to be here. And he's kind of the middle child of this mafia.
Yep, that he is. He was invited. He said he was busy until the middle of October, because he still needs to win.
Said he had a photo shoot with like the Queen of England, and then Bassmaster was doing a week-long series on him, and then in Fisherman, and then I actually think he had he was going to dinner with Tom Brady next week.
Well, he's big time,
yeah.
Yeah, he's big time.
We even played big time for him at a couple of the Champions Tour this year.
Yeah.
The one big timers.
Yep.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Noah, we're sorry you're not here, but at the end of the day, we had the mob boss and the young calf use the Force Luke. Checking in, checking out, boys. This was great. Thank you again.
Thank you.
You got the Boston Bomber. You got the Shoe Bomber. You got the Unabomber. You got Harry S. Truman. You got... This is a Bass Galaxy like premium exclusive after story here. The what bomber did you What the fuck? What?
Oh, we got away from like the good stories, but we had to get one came up, and so now we're back here to the after galaxy intergalactic after hours.
It's like that middle school love letter I wrote where it's
just-
like, P.S. I'd love to go
Just took a little
on
time,
the swing set with you.
little time from the galaxy to get back to it, but yeah.
P.S.
So we have all these different bombers out there, but we have one special one from town. It's the dildo bomber. So
The dildo bomber?
guy made a bomb out of his toy and then gave it to his ex-girlfriend. So,
Did it go off?
No, it didn't go off, but it was given and then picked up, and yeah. So we had to have a bomb squad come out and deal with it.
What was that call like? Like, walk me through that call. Like obviously dispatch came in like, hey, there's a chick that's telling us there's a bomb in her dildo.
I don't remember how it all ended up. I got in on it on the tail end of it, but yeah, it was
The whole cops were like, they call the whole squad. They're like, we need backup.
Yep.
I don't think you guys understand the magnitude of this situation.
Yeah, it was messed up, put it that way.
So a guy
Made
there's like a news story about this.
lots of them. Made like people in Europe were calling and wanting to know about it. I mean, it's all over just look it up, Waseca dildo bomber or whatever, and I mean it'll pop
Waseca dildo bomber.
It'll pop up all sorts of news feeds.
Okay, a little more context here. What'd she say?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I mean,
Like, he obviously had it out for her.
yeah, it was like an ex, like, well, here you go.
I don't think there's an ex. Like, I've had some ex-girlfriends that have done some shit, but I don't think I'd ever consider blowing up their vagina. You know what I mean? Like, that is like cold-blooded. I mean, you see some shit out there, but like, how do you turn a dildo into a bomb? Like, what are bombs? You got C4, you got TNT, the old AC/DC song. You got firecrackers, you got sparklers.
Well, you got all sorts of different stuff, but yeah, it was done.
How did you send the bomb squad in, and the bomb squad's like got the helmet and the gloves on, and he's got the dildo in his hand, and he's like, everybody's backing the fuck off from this dildo, and he's like, don't move, and he's like debating whether to cut the green wire, the yellow wire, the whatever wire on the dildo. Like, I didn't even know, like,
Yeah, it was all that fun stuff.
all of it.
I think they ended up just blowing it up just because they didn't know how to go about it. But yeah, I mean,
Dude,
you just can't. Like I said, you wanted to know, like, well, some of the stuff. I'm like, well, that's definitely one of the things that
you helped bust the dildo bomber. Like, that's a significant bust.
I was involved with it, but not necessarily the one that physically dealt with it, but I was involved.
I bet you seen some weird dildos too.
That's always the fun thing when you're doing the search warrants. It's like, all right, who's gonna find them? Where are they? It's like that's the inside joke. So it doesn't matter when you're doing the search warrant. That's what's coming. It's a matter of who's gonna find it and what is it.
How many women out there are lying about it? Like, all of them? They all got them.
For sure.
That's enough of our PS note. That was great, Tim. Thank you, everyone.